Hello, survivors, and welcome to the Zombicide Fans Podcast, where we discuss and review all Zombicide games. I'm Ryan.
I'm Schmedley.
And I'm James.
And today we're joined again by our special guest, Nate Parks, aka El Dill on Board Game Geek. Thanks again for joining us, Nate.
Thanks for having me again.
Awesome. So today we'll be doing our review and discussion about the Zombicide Invader Kickstarter and Expansions. This is part 2 for Invader. And if you would like to listen to our discussion and review about just the Zombicide Invader core game, head on back to that episode. Quick reminder, listeners, head on over to our website, zombicidefans.com, where there's a ton of amazing community-submitted content, custom missions, custom survivors, heroes, zombies, equipment, house rules, variants, templates, you name it, all kinds of goodies. Free to use, free to sign up, submit your custom stuff as well. You can also find links to our Discord and Facebook group on the site and in the show notes.
Just for anybody wondering, I did turn off my very thematic sci-fi voice filter that I had the last episode.
Oh, no.
That was completely intentional, but I should sound better now. I'm no longer out in the field.
I'm glad. Feel like you were speaking to us from across the gulf of space.
Yeah, see? It got the intent across.
That's great. All right, we got a little bit of mailbag here. Jenny P writes in, you guys talked about how the Abomination lineup in Invader isn't as good as other settings because of concentrated fire. Which setting has the best/most fun Abominations as a whole? And oddly, she goes on to say, also, tell Schmedley I think he's hot. So
there you go.
That's the thing.
Yeah, he told me. Thank you, by the way. I don't really know how to respond to that, but you asked him to tell me, he told me. As far as the question, I do think the Invader Abominations are a little weak because of concentrated fire. We talked a lot about how the spoiler is very good. The lineup as a whole, as in not just core box, I'd probably give it to Marvel, just because they do a really cool thing with the 2 game modes where in one game mode, all of the Abominations are the survivors for the other game mode, Abominations. And then second edition, really, just because of all the brand deals, it's so silly and fun to have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man show up, and then Cthulhu, and then Batman, you know? James?
Yeah, so for sheer pain in the butt and most difficult and dangerous to deal with, I would definitely say second edition modern. You've got abominations like Black Plague, the Killer Clown, and Lanky Man. When those hit the board, they are definitely affecting your play. Obviously, Killer Clown taking the last skill that you could use, Lanky Man making everything a -1 to hit, and then Black Dog, if you take 1 wound, you're dead. But if you're talking about most bang for your buck, I would probably say the Abomination packs from The Boys or the Batman Dark Knight medals, because you get to use all those guys as survivors or abominations. So if you like to get the most bang for your buck out of your miniatures, I would say those are the ones that are most interesting and fun.
What about you, Nate?
Which ones do you like?
I think you all have a much deeper and broader appreciation for the Zombicide product line. I'm coming pretty much from like a Black Plague Invader standpoint. I'll say though, the Abominations in Black Plague, specifically what jumps to mind is, I think it's called the Abominator, like offer a difference to the map that I think, like when we're talking about the Abominations in Invader, I love them. They're weird, horrible things. They all have all these horrible different shapes. They're fantastic. But Abominator from Black Plague breaks down walls and opens buildings for you and like has a huge impact on the gameplay, a kind of impact that, aside from the spoiler Abomination, none of the extra Abomination Invader has. And that's what I kind of like, are these Abominations that really flip the script. And I feel like not a lot of Invader Abominations flip the script, but if you look at some of the Black Plague Abominations and Green Horde Abominations, they do really weird things.
Yeah, that's a really fun question. Let's see. Which setting has the best/most fun Abominations as a whole? Obviously subjective. And so, yeah, it's hard to say. I have to say Marvel Zombies and Deceased, at least what I've played of Deceased.
Just
because
the breadth.
there's so many. And they're beloved IP that I've grown up with. So, and finding the connections of their skills, their abilities, their unique abilities that wreck the game for you, that match up with those characters that I, again, have grown up with.
Yeah. So for Mailbag 2 episodes ago, we asked people how they feel about the length of the podcast. and I wanted to ask how you guys feel about us talking about other games. Because we talk about news a lot with Massive Darkness, Cthulhu Death May Die, other CMON games. Do we do that too much? Would you like to see more? We also talk less so, but we go into it a little with other games towards the end of our part ones when we go over products, not so much on our campaign episodes like this one. Do you want us to talk more about games we recommend? Do you want us to maybe skim over that a little more and keep to Zombicide? I'm curious what opinions on that are.
Yeah. So you listeners, feel free to email us at zombicidefans@gmail.com, comment on our videos and our Facebook posts and Discords and stuff. Let us know. Check out Board Game Goodies and save 10% with coupon code podcast at the URL boardgamegoodies.shop, where you'll find various game upgrades and accessories, including the new Zombicide Invader Kickstarter insert designed to store literally all products from the Zombicide Invader campaign, including Darkside, Black Ops, all Kickstarter exclusives and add-ons, with room for Project Elite and Alone crossovers and comic book extras, all in just 3 boxes. Board Game Goodies' approach is to optimize speed of setup and convenience of gameplay. There are trays and holders for literally everything: tokens, dice, 3D doors, deck and discard trays for cards, card storage with dividers, slotted Survivor and Abomination storage and trays for easy in and out of several models of all of the Horde enemies: Xenos, Drillers, Flingers, Xenomorphs, Seekers, and even Biters from Project Elite. There are a bunch more goodies for other Zombicide games, as well as other games like Massive Darkness and Cthulhu Death May Die, and more. Listeners can save 10% with coupon code podcast over at boardgamegoodies.shop. All right, let's jump into the news. First of all, everybody's got White Death but us. Like,
waiting.
Yeah, it's all over the world now. And all the Kickstarter backers are left out, unfortunately, still at this point. So, but we'll get all of the stuff when we get it. A little bit sad. Yeah, so what's nice is that, CMON is actually addressing their backers here. So there's this post, there's like this letter to the backers on Facebook. I don't know where else it's showed up, but it's here. Just basically saying like, hey, big thanks to all of our backers. We really appreciate, what you do, and thank you for crowdfunding our campaigns. We hope that longtime fans recognize the passion we put into our products, enjoy the fun, exciting experience, ultimately bring to your table. However, you're probably also familiar with our struggles with production delays and communication at times. So if nothing else, we want to make sure to communicate one thing. We recognize this and will do better. Like, they don't have to do this. This PR, it's good. I think it's nice. And it doesn't really tell us much, but then it kind of came with this new project updates page that's on their website.
Graphical interface.
Oh, I don't even think I've seen this.
Yes. I used to be such a huge Fantasy Flight Games fan. I used to get all their games. And they had something like this, but this is maybe even more clear than what they had. They got tabs for crowdfunding and for pre-order, where they're just showing you, they've got a graph for development, art and graphics, sculpt, bolding, proofing files, mass production, pledge packing, shipping, delivery. And it's really clear. It's got all the check marks for things that are done, and, like Cthulhu Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown. Delivery December 2024, and it's got all the check marks because we all have it now. White Death, it shows clearly like it's still at pledge packing. It's in progress. And like there's Mordred here, and Deceased, Song of Ice and Fire, Masters of the Universe, DC Superheroes United, the Genesis, Clan Wars, Cthulhu Death May Die, Forbidden Reaches, God of War, Massive Darkness, Dungeons of Shadow Reach. So it's really cool, and it kind of helps put into perspective like, wow, this is a lot of stuff that they're working on. Now, what I thought was odd is that where's non-fantasy Zombicide?
Dead Keep.
Where's the Dead Keep? Where is it?
It's on the pre-order one.
Oh, I had no idea what you were talking about. All right, I'm glad James.
Yeah, I think Dead Keep, though, wasn't crowdfunded, right?
No, it was on Steam.
It's technically,
But it wasn't crowdfunded, if that makes sense.
It was just a pre-order page. So there weren't stretch goals. They just offered a bunch of stuff to go with it.
Oh.
More Deceased.
Yeah, they're drip feeding us more and more plastic samples for Deceased, which is cool. We didn't have any White Death updates since the last episode of this podcast, but we get to look at all the plastic for Shadow Pact, which is really cool. I'm really excited about this. I love the John Constantine.
I think this is my most anticipated one. I love all the magic guys in DC.
All the magic and dark magic.
And was that big guy Trigon?
That was Trigon, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And Enchantress has like a translucent green magic thing around her. Jason Blood, a detective chimp.
Was that Loki with her?
Blue Devil.
And I'm enjoying this in a weird sort of like by proxy, because I did not back this campaign, but I backed DC Heroes United. And so I'm like, oh, Trigon. That's not my Trigon, but I'm getting a Trigon.
His Trigon is
Oh, good. They
amazing.
gave him the 4 eyes. It looked for a second like maybe he only had 2 eyes.
Dude, Trigon is so huge. But he looks even taller than the Sentinels and the Green Horde Dragon.
I think he's roughly the size. I haven't taken out the Sentinels in a while. Maybe he is bigger than them.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. All right, Massive Darkness, Dungeons of Shadowreach. This is the third Massive Darkness crowdfunding campaign. It's on GameFound, and it's got one more day left as of this recording, so you listening in the future, it will be done. However, if they haven't already opened the late pledge, I'm sure that they will very soon, and you can still get your hands on this stuff. So Massive Darkness, Dungeons of Shadowreach. I know you know that we enjoy Massive Darkness here. We could sit here and talk about it for hours, probably. Instead, we'll just jump to the relevant thing, to Zombicide, which is the Zombicide Fantasy Crossover Pack. It's only $8. And it contains cards needed to bring various content from Dungeons of Shadowreach into Zombicide Fantasy. And they are putting a lot in here this time. Over 20 plus Survivor ID cards. And of course, the miniatures that go along with them. 2 more familiars, a very angry groundhog and a very cute, adorable alligator. And like 20 plus enemies. So like horde enemies and abominations. It's friggin' wild.
Are the horde enemies normal units?
Yeah, so it says mobs as special enemies like walkers, runners, and brutes, kobolds.
Oh.
From the core box, dark elves.
I hadn't looked into it.
Myconids,
I just kind of assumed they'd all
Rennekin.
be abominations.
Yeah, they've got horde units this time, which is so awesome. They haven't done that before.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Normally they just add in survivors and abominations.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I love more horde units.
And also uniquely this time, the 20 plus survivors are from the entire campaign, stretch goals and all. What they've always done in the past with these crossovers on both ways is they've only ever made the crossover card content for retail only stuff. But this time they're like, let's just do it for everything. Or maybe not everything, but at least for the survivors, it looks like they're doing all of them. So I don't even think they've revealed 20 yet in the campaign. Within the last day, they're going to reveal some more to get us there. I might be wrong, but yeah, that's all very exciting. You're getting Rolling Monster and Boss as necromancers. So there's a vampire lord, a lich, a djinn. It's wild times. There's a lot of great stuff in here. Fire giant, dragon turtle, a dire lichen. You can add them to your wolves.
Who doesn't want a dragon turtle? It's so awesome looking.
Yeah.
It's one of the best miniatures in the campaign.
Oh, is it? Are you not joking?
No, I'm not. I'm not joking. Yeah.
Let's see if I can find
turtles
him.
are cool.
Let's see if I can find this
absolutely
guy.
awesome. Dragon turtle. There he is.
I was not super enthused about this campaign at first, but as it's gone on, of course, classically, I'm more and more excited.
Yeah, I kind of thought it had a slow start too.
Yeah.
I do like a Kraken that's just some tentacles. Just here's some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you get 3 updates a day. What more do you want?
More.
There has been a solid number of updates.
What are they up to? 42 in the last, 15, 16 days or whatever?
I think I said last episode that I think a pirate on the seas theme for Zombicide I think would be lame. Mm-hmm. But this is kind of changing my mind, like the way they're handling the water and stuff, or at least it seems like they are. I don't have the rule book or anything, but it is making me have faith in the idea because I know a lot of people are very hyped on the concept. Might be something to it.
One thing I wanted to point out is like for people that love to customize their games, or like I know a lot of people like to just like play random, like make random sort of quests or missions on the fly. Which is like so wild to me. It's so cool that people can do that. I'm like, no, I've got to like craft a story and I've got to make the thing and got to play test it and make sure it works. And so people don't, leave angry. So, but like, I'm currently like displaying my favorite expansion. The one thing that really got me fired up about this Massive Darkness campaign is this gigantic red dragon. He's like about probably third size of like the Cthulhu and Galactus miniatures, right? Third to quarter size. And just the incredible wingspan and everything. It's absolutely incredible. But, just like the other thing I wanted to say for customizers is the tiles. Like there's so many tiles that you could put right next to all your Zombicide tiles, or just use these. You can craft some amazing stories and just unique things. They've got all kinds of different landscapes that we've never seen that much variety, not nearly in the Zombicide stuff. So that alone is like just such a great value to me. I've crafted some really wacky missions and custom missions and quests that I need to like further playtest so that I can feel good about releasing them online. And of course, when I do, everybody listening here will be the first ones to know.
That's a good point, Ryan. I think all the extra tiles, you read any comment of any Kickstarter game found, people are always asking for more tiles. So anytime there's more tiles, that's just more diversity, more opportunity to do something different. So yeah, that's another thing that's great about this crowdfunding pre-order system is that we're getting to see all these new tiles that we can do something with.
All right, that's the news. Coming up, our review and discussion on Zombicide Invader, Kickstarter, and expansions.
Zombicide Invader, a quick refresher on the stats. It was designed by Raphael Gouteau, John Baptiste Lillian, and Nicolas Raoul. As far as the campaign went, it's alongside Darkside and Black Ops, part of the first and so far only campaign in Zombicide sci-fi setting. Maybe we'll see a change in that at some point. It was the second attempt at branching out of the modern setting after the great success of Zombicide Fantasy in Black Plague and Green Horde. Its campaign ran from April to May of 2018, and in that time, it got over 18,000 backers and raised $3.3 million, which does put it pretty far behind the $5 million raised by Green Horde, the most recent campaign at the time, but that had to happen sometime. It was the sixth campaign, and it was the first one to not break both Kickstarter and CMON records. If we head on over to Board Game Geek, the reviews there do not reflect the lower earnings because with an average score of 7.8 from almost 3,000 reviews, it does rank higher than Green Horde by 0.1 and higher than any large box Zombicide product released before it. So we'll go over the campaign. Maybe we'll see what turned people off to backing it.
Yeah, so going down memory lane with the Zombicide Invader, we're just looking at the page. We had two different pledges, so it was nice and simple. A civilian pledge for $100, soldier pledge for $150. Civilian pledge got you the Invader core box, Allison Cardinal, exclusive survivor, and all applicable stretch goals. And the soldier pledge got you Zombicide Invader core box, Black Ops, Allison, plus two more. I know it's Darkside and the promo Xenos box. I think
It would have been Black Ops and the soldier extras. But
Yeah.
Darkside was own thing. It was not part of any pledge level.
Yeah, Soldier Pledge got you 23 more miniatures than the Civilian Pledge.
Right, the soldier extras. Yes, thank you. Wait, so Darkside wasn't in any of these? You had to buy it as an add-on?
That was an optional buy, and it was actually its own kind of Kickstarter.
Wacky. That's a little different.
So it was kind of two Kickstarters in one. Yeah, Darkside got you your core box there was 72 miniatures for $90, but then you also, if you bought that now as opposed to waited till retail, you also got the Darkside extras, which gave you an extra 26 miniatures. It gave you the 3 companions, the extra Abomination, the 6 drillers, and 16 extra Xenos.
And the 10 crossover missions in the booklet, Operation Persephone.
I haven't tried Operation Persephone yet.
Yeah.
Any of you done it?
No.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited to play it.
Everything worked for it except for Mission 10. Mission 10 has a problem, but the first 9 missions work.
James, the depth of your experience with Zombicide is almost mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, I have not been able to tap this yet. And for you to just be like, no, it works except for Mission 10. And just to recall that information from your impressive
every
repository of
episode, James
Zombicide.
comes in and he's like, yeah, I did the book club scenario and also 26 other missions just to be safe.
Well, okay, so to be fair, I don't have the best memory in the world, but I just happened to have played all of Invader last year. So last year is when I first got all of my Invader and Darkside and all the extras painted and played. And I played them all through 3 times. And so it's fresh on my mind just because I've done that. If this was, back in like early Black Plague days, my brain probably.
That's great though. It is. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
like it's
we
so
talked
impressive how you can pound out like so many missions. It'll probably be another 10 years till I even get to the 10th mission of Operation Persephone.
We talked a lot about the dangers of mixing spoilers and drillers last episode. How much does that come up in Persephone?
Yeah, so in Persephone, the way they split it is pretty simple. Basically, whatever the mission maps are, you draw Xenos based on what those mission maps are. So if you're playing with Invader, then you're only drawing Invader Xenos. If you're playing with the Dark Side, then you're drawing the Dark Side Xenos,
so
right?
they still keep them separate.
But, I mean, in the same mission, though. So let's say it's a 6-tile map, right? You might have 3 that are Invader and 3 that are Dark Side.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so they can mix, but, you know, if you're killing them all, then they don't mix.
I imagine that makes it harder for the spoiler loss condition to happen.
Yes, but at the same time, you're also dealing with the pits, right?
Stuff,
And so that's another potential where you can search and something pops up just like the mold.
All right, so let's look at what we got here for the civilian pledge. Again, Zombicide Invader, it's $100, and a ton more Kickstarter exclusive extra survivors, a mix of the civilians and the soldiers, and all these great pop culture references in here. And then a bunch more Xenos, an extra spoiler, a bunch of extra hunters and workers and tanks, and a bunch of extra abominations, unique abominations with all their own special abilities. Secret workers that are the bane of my existence that I'll be talking about later. And even some bots, or a bot and a gun that are abominations, which are crazy. And then the soldier pledge gives you all that, plus Black Ops, the expansion that you can actually technically use with Invader or Darkseid. You just don't get the missions. I think, James, you mentioned that last time, right? You just don't get the missions.
Yeah, you can't really use it with Darkseid. You can and you can't. It's really just meant to play with Invader because of the missions, the tile layouts, and what they're expecting you to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, Black Ops has some pretty cool different rules to make it a little more challenging with special unique zones, and it's got 3 new tiles that you can mix in with your Invader stuff, and a meteor gun, another cool bot.
I like the meteor gun. I mentioned it last time.
Yeah. I really like the survivor. He's a standout for me, Frank.
Yep.
You know,
Frank.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like a scientist got on grabbed a driller tank.
So it's actually Dr. Fisher. She's the mad scientist, right? So she's the one that hooked up Frank.
Now, is she a sci-fi twisted version of, what is her name, Edna from The Incredibles? That's kind of that's my take on it.
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
I never had that impression.
That's so
Neat.
awesome. Yeah, because
I really dig Frank. I think it's a really cool combo to have this sort of like hunched over, almost 40K looking like mad scientist, followed by like one of the aliens that he's just attached a circular saw in place of one of its hands, and she has some sort of mind control.
And Kilgore, those little feet he's on, like he doesn't really even have little, you know, like he's kind of the Blade Runner kind of guy.
Mhm.
Like he's got like little nubs, you know, to kind of walk on.
I did not
Doesn't really
notice
have
that until now.
feet.
How wacky. I've been playing with that thing all week and I did not even see. He has just blades for feet. It's just little points.
I think he appeals to that element of sci-fi, which is like the self-modification to the point of alienation. Like
Yeah.
he's not even a human.
They're like
anymore.
transhuman.
Yeah, transhumans. So
Yeah.
I think that's a cool addition too.
Here we go. I got Dr. Fisher and Frank. It's so fun. And I just, you know, in my head canon, believing that that's Edna from The Incredibles, like, you look great, darling. But no capes.
No capes. I think that they actually said that in the Kickstarter when they introduced her, is they had the line "no capes."
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Well, there you go.
Love that. Just kind of skipping around here. So like, extra Xenos for Black Ops. There's the Xenium Horror and the Brood Mother Abomination and 8 brood children. Oh my gosh.
I like the idea of the brood mother, but it does make it, and I think, again, read the lore, it's supposed to be separate species kind of coming together to be these zombies, like humans are the only ones immune, but it clashes thematically because the spoiler is the thing that reproduces. That's what the mold is. So it's weird that there's also this queen thing.
Yeah, it's real cool for me.
That's true.
Not too hung up on any of that. The Xenium horror, I just absolutely love any idea of going towards Edge of Tomorrow. Like Edge of Tomorrow is like one of the best sci-fi movies of the last 20 years by far. And that popping up as one of those types of aliens is really cool to me.
Let's talk about some of the unique rules for each of the abominations. Since we're looking at the Xenium horror abomination, it spawns 2 zones away from the noisiest zone on the board with an open route linking both zones. If several zones are eligible, the players choose. If no open route is available to the noisy zone, discard the Xeno card and draw another. Kind of funny. So yeah, you put an active mold token in its spawning zone, and of course not in exterior zones. It's the only other abomination other than the spoiler abomination. We talked about this last time that generates mold, but it's just the one time when it drops, and it's 2 zones
gives us
away.
A grand total of 1 extra mold.
So this other one here, the Broodmother Abomination, this is one of the scariest ones for me because the Broodmother, design-wise, is cool, but also the rules for it too. So the Broodmother spawns 8 brood children in its zone when it ends a move action within 2 zones or less from a survivor. No line of sight or open route is required. The brood children then perform a move action. Each Broodmother Abomination may perform the special spawn only once. So the brood children show the same targeted priority level as walkers.
Yeah,
they're basically little baby, little tiny workers, but they're freaky. Like, not only the design, especially if you paint them, but like it's just so Broodmother drops down, and every time she moves, she can then release 8 more children, right? Every round if you kill them all. And so you're just constantly inundated and surrounded by all these little brood children.
Yeah, I'd like to read to you the flavor text of the Broodmother from the Zombicide website, which I love.
Please do.
The flavor text goes as follows. Nope. Quoted by Lieutenant Grimes. And I feel like that accurately captures just the awful horror of watching these 8 little horrible things spill out of this one giant horrible.
Yeah, and they move up to 2 zones every time they activate too, so they're just going to be on you. Let's talk about some more of these abominations. There's I love the names of these, man. The Mother-in-Law Abomination. Like, you could just see like these Marines naming stuff this way. It's so cool.
So the mother-in-law is basically saying nope to your heavy shotgun or your light machine gun, because if you don't kill it, it's going to get an extra activation if you do ranged attacks, right? So the mother-in-law abomination is what you want to kill in hand-to-hand. The shadow abomination shares the same targeting priority as hunters. So it's also saying nope to your heavy machine guns or your heavy shotguns and your light machine guns. If you got a sniper rifle with somebody with +1 dice range, you got a chance. Otherwise, you're going hand to hand with that guy as well.
And before we get to the next one,
I believe that the shadow abomination is immune to ranged attacks.
Well, there you go. We got berserkers.
I think it's put in the targeting order with hunters, because if it wasn't, you would be in the situation where you can't shoot the shadow abomination, but you also can't shoot anything else because the shadow abomination would be at the top of the priority list. So they slipped it down to the hunters just so you're actually able to do stuff with the rest of the Xenos in the cell.
It's like how in first edition they got really complicated when they added toxics. They're like, well, technically they're all a higher priority and technically berserkers are lower.
Well, the only thing that I would say to that is you're right, except for it still can be killed with hellfire or seismic blast.
That's true.
Absolutely true.
So that
and I just wanted to point out, like, design-wise, aesthetically, visual design-wise, the Mother-in-Law Abomination and the Shadow Abomination are the most xenomorph-like ones. Probably miniatures in the whole thing.
Lots of bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Widowmaker Abomination maybe, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right that it's the Shadow Abomination.
Yeah, because the Mother-in-Law Abomination is basically kind of a xenomorph, but with like crab legs and appendages, but it's got like a yellow armor, so that's kind of cool. Maybe even looks closer to the Warhammer ones. What are they called?
The Tyranids?
Tyranids.
Yeah. Do they look Tyranid to you guys?
Any Tyranid design past 1999 looks like a xenomorph, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Like it's called like a hive tyrant or something. I'm pretty sure it looks exactly like the Shadow Abomination there.
Yeah.
I've got the rules for Babyface. So this Babyface, this one with the horrible mouth face on its own stomach, is whenever the Babyface Abomination is eliminated, all Xenos on the board immediately get an extra activation, which I believe abominations are Xenos. So this is such a nice nightmare to kill.
Yeah.
So if you're viewing us at home and not just listening to us and you're seeing the sculpt of this model, let me just say there was a lot of salty comments in the comments section when this thing popped up in the Kickstarter about where that mouth actually was.
Like it's a weird juxtaposition. What I assume is intestines.
It's so gross. I love it.
Yeah, it's giving very Nurgle the way the others were giving Tyranids.
Yeah, Nurgle.
Let your imagination run wild there.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that aspect of it.
Let my imagination run into the gutter, just like you're implying. Yeah, the Xenomorphs, they're not abominations. They're just a different horde type. But yeah, but just looking at them real quick, it just occurred to me, since we're analyzing these things, they're like face huggers, but instead of the spider-like, finger-like claws, there's wings there instead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's friggin' terrifying. I can imagine these just wrap themselves around somebody's head and devour them instead of implant it in them. Ugh. Okay.
Yep. It's just super, super terrible.
Just super
living nightmare.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah,
so
it's very cool. It
gross.
feels like there's not enough there to be a creature the way they look. Interesting.
Very unsettling. And the Widowmaker abomination, who's getting hardcore Star Wars vibes here? Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was
Yeah.
thinking more Starship Troopers, but as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, yeah.
Mostly bug.
The fully painted art is green. So he's totally like an Acklay from the Attack of the Clones arena scene.
Mhm.
His abilities kind of lend to that. So it moves up to 2 zones per activation, so it can move pretty quick.
He can also attack.
Yeah. For my money, this is the most deadly abomination in all.
Agreed, 100%. This guy
It
will
moves-
kill you.
It moves 2 zones and it can attack at range 1 and it hits
Mhm.
everybody in the zone. So
Yep.
it doesn't matter if you've got your soldier defending. Like, I had to double check when the Widowmaker spawned during my games. I had to double check the rules and I realized I was about to lose. I
Yeah.
had to do something else.
Really? I
Yeah,
never
this
had
guy.
that
This guy's the
huge-
worst.
The Widowmaker gave me some trouble in one of the campaign missions that we'll do for the book club section. But it was only because of a house rule I was using. I never had much trouble with it moving around quickly, skittering
Yeah,
around.
if you play by the rules, this guy is not a runner. He's way worse than a runner. He's like an abomination
Yeah.
combined with a troll. I mean, he's like the worst of all things in an abomination.
a whole lot of things I don't have, but
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Again, moves up to 2 zones. And I'm not sure you said all of this, Nate, a second ago. Yes, attacks from
I think you covered
at range 0 to 1, and it performs an attack targeting every zone with any survivors at range 0 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
He's bad news.
very terrifying.
Wait, maybe I misread that then. So it's every zone.
Yeah.
But it is not every survivor in the zone. So if all your survivors are bunched in one zone, you're still only taking the one attack.
That's
But
great.
if you're not, it's bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the meteor gun. That's how the meteor gun works.
Okay. Still terrible.
And speaking of attacking at range, we have the flingers there too, I see. And
Yes.
they're your basic Deadeye guys.
They're actually more powerful than Deadeye Walkers because they know that you're going to be playing indoors most of the time. They also gave them the equivalent of Home Defender, so they can target through building zones.
I was going to say what makes them terrible is the enhanced senses skill, because it means almost certainly they will be able to shoot you before you get in range to shoot them, unless you have some sort of ability going on.
Wait.
The best argument for using doors in Invader, which would otherwise go almost completely unused.
So they attack at range 0 to 2. I know that. What else do they do?
In Undead or Alive, you know how normally in building zones you're limited to range 1. They can ignore that. If they have line of sight, they can attack 2 rooms away.
I haven't read their cards in a long time. I didn't know that.
The way I
Yeah,
describe it when I'm explaining the game to someone is when you're trying to see someone, your eyesight can only pass through one door.
Mhm.
Their eyesight can pass through 2 doors.
And most of your characters in this game aren't going to get enhanced senses until you play with Darkseid. So it's difficult to deal with them. You would much rather face them outdoors than you would indoors.
If you can manage a prototype weapon or 2.
Well, they're also another case for the whole taunt thing that I talked about last episode.
That's valid.
Yeah. They're such a cool design. They're just crab-like dudes, but with tails that come up from behind like a scorpion almost, but it opens up and then They're like flinging, I'm assuming, spikes out of their mouths that are up on their tails. I don't know. They're so gross. I love it.
Oh, I didn't think that was their mouth. I did assume that was, and I wasn't assuming spikes. I was assuming some kind of acid or goo they were spitting at you.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
called flingers, though. I guess they'd be called spitters if that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
So maybe they're some kind of lobbing.
They're lobbing something. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
Before getting to the gun and the bot, the Stomper Abomination. I friggin' love this guy. I love how different this is for the game rules.
Visually, he's also super distinct. He's the only one that's not really a bug and not really a mass of tentacles.
Yeah, he's quite hulking, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's great. I'm going to take us back to Flingers for a second because I was curious.
Oh, yeah.
I just looked at the flavor text, and you can't unlearn this, but I'm going to share it with you. These predatory beasts fire needle-like projectiles of their own fecal matter at potential prey. So thank you, Simon, for that.
Okay.
It's very gritty. It's very alien. So
No, they're poo flingers.
Yeah, they're literally...
they're called.
Nope, my head can't be different than that.
The Stomper is a cool miniature.
I just want to point out that's some kind of goo. So
Yeah, you're
some
right
kind
about
of goo.
that.
That
Right
is
about
a
that.
kind of goo.
And apparently in their case it's purple. But
Like the mole.
because you needed to know that. The Stomper is cool, but I don't think its rule is that impressive. I mean, 0 to 2, knocking everybody down, that can be bad. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think it's as dangerous as some of the other abominations.
No, you're right. It's not nearly as dangerous. It's just such a neat gimmick to me. You know, it's something you barely ever do in the game. It's like lay miniatures down. And the fact that he's stomping and, you know, knocking on.
I always
kind of
like
wish.
when that comes up. It shows up occasionally. It's always a very cool mechanic.
Yeah.
I do like his weird little arm blade. I'm not sure how to interpret that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it right. Absolutely, 100% the first time.
Well, yeah,
Arm
I
blade.
know that's what it is, but I don't like what's it doing there. Why does he have that?
Why not have it?
It doesn't
I
seem
do like
and I don't know what would cause you to just grow that.
I do like that the stomp effect doesn't take up his activation. It's happening at the end of the Xeno turn.
Hmm.
So if that was like what he did with his activation, he would be much less threatening. But the fact is, he's still just stomping after you like an abomination, but he has this extra thing that's sapping your actions.
You guys are wasting too much time. We got to get to Buddy Bot. He's the best. Come on, man.
Well, let's talk
Buddy
about
Bot.
virus and Buddy Bot.
Come
Before we
on.
go too far into it, can I just say, I imagine most people watching, if they're looking at these, can tell what these two are. And that kind of brings up what I was saying, I think, before the podcast started, so I'll reiterate it. We'll get more into it when we do Survivors. References in this version, the cultural references, the pop culture references, little on the nose, little blatant this time around.
Yeah.
I like it that way, but it's just like that's barely not Claptrap, and that's just barely not a portal turret.
Yeah.
Okay, enlighten me. I have no idea what Claptrap is. I love him, but I don't know what he is.
He is Fallout New Vegas, I think
No.
he's from.
No, it's
it not New
Borderlands.
Vegas?
Borderlands.
Borderlands. I'm so sorry. I was thinking of a different guy.
Yeah, the Borderlands
Uh,
video game franchise. He's so funny too. Like, don't even look at the movie. Don't even think about the movie. The trailers are so cringe and so awful, and the reviews are
Maybe
even
that's
worse.
why I blocked out Borderlands.
I will never watch it, but do not go there because it's Jack Black voicing. It's the worst idea ever. But the video game version of Claptrap is so funny. He's such a funny, great little character. The
This
Iris
little
Sentry
guy.
gun is from Portal video game that was made by Valve.
Very basic robots. They don't move around, so it's interesting that this Iris Sentry gun moves around.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. But in that video game, they're
motion activated machine guns, basically. But they gave them a little personality, and everyone fell in love with them.
because they would say things like, "Are you still there?"
Yeah, they had these very childish voices.
Okay, so what does BuddyBot do?
Basically, within 1 to 3, he kills you.
Mhm.
I love. You got to get out on the side of him. Within 1 to 3, he kills you. 3 damage, you're dead.
So importantly for both of these, BuddyBot and the Sentry gun, these are still bots. You can still control them, but when the Xeno phase comes around, they will turn on you.
If you have bot control or sentry control, you can take advantage of special abilities, which are weird because they are auto kill abilities. They're not, you don't have to roll dice. But if you've got Mitsuki who has bot control and Buddy Bot shows up, Mitsuki can spend actions to either up to 3 Xenos suffer damage 1 ranged attack, or 1 Xeno suffers a damage 3 ranged attack. So Buddy Bot can kill abominations. And that's a weird element of balance, in that Buddy Bot is working for the Xenos, but also working for you.
Yeah, it kind of invokes like there's some kind of corruption virus happening where you're just getting control for a little bit and then it goes back to...
Yep.
Which is weird because that's not really the kind of enemy we're facing, but...
No, Buddy Bot's like Honey Badger. He don't care. He's not kill anything.
I love the overall impact of it because it does get you the sense that this bot is killing the Xenos, but it's also rolling towards you and it's going to kill you. It just also is like, it's an abomination that kills other abominations.
Yeah, and it says here, rogue machine up.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Did you not know that, Ryan, that you could still control them? You kind of made a face when I said that.
Oh yeah, super made a face. And it says rogue machine abominations. There's just so many words here that I'm like, oh, there's too many words. I'll read it later for like years and years and years. No, like as soon as I saw like these bots as abomination, the bot, they're not both bots. There's a bot and a sentry gun. These machines as abominations, like, no.
I think if the sentry gun moves, it's basically a bot.
But either way, like I was like, no, thank you. Like I want to fight aliens. I don't want to fight bots and guns. I'll use them as bots and guns on a mission once in a while, maybe. And then I just didn't go from there. Now when we played our book club mission, the Xenoleak Saga, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I did try one as an abomination as it came up, and my experience was incorrect because I didn't do the rogue machine abomination thing. I had no idea because I got the Iris sentry gun that came up and I just read his part. And I didn't even read the first page because I didn't think I needed to. I didn't think there was more information for both of them. So whoopsie, don't do that. Read the whole thing, everybody. But that is pretty cool. Like that is a really neat concept that they're rogue machines and they are NPCs that damage all. And that's really cool. That's actually really cool.
Again, the robots are the best part of this game. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's super interesting. They're still like bound by their programming or something to follow your orders, but they're still also coming to kill you at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And in terms of like distinction of whether the Iris is a sentry gun or a bot, I think it only matters mechanically that the bot ability can't control the Iris sentry gun.
That's fair.
And the sentry gun ability can't control the Buddy Bot. Otherwise, they're identical.
More enemies and things.
There are a few. We haven't talked about the Seekers, and we haven't talked about the Blitzers.
Where are those Seekers? Are they like... Oh, they should be...
We don't need to talk about
a little bit,
right?
Well, we're not going to do a campaign episode when we get to Dark Side, so we could probably touch on Blitzers. They're tanks mixed with runners. There's not much to say.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's pretty much it. Like combine a tank and a runner.
Yeah, they're Robins.
Yeah. So I think the Seekers here are the workers that when you spawn them, it also gives all the Seekers already on the board an extra activation. And I don't think I'd fully appreciated that until I realized that this makes them the most unpredictable of the Xenos. Because almost every other Xeno is pretty deterministic. Mm-hmm. But this one, if you're adding 9 Seeker cards into your spawn deck, that's 9 Seeker extra abominations, which I really like. One of my qualms with the game is how deterministic the Xenos can get. Seekers are not deterministic. You never know, are they going to go 1 space this turn, 2 spaces, 3 spaces? You can't really tell. They're kind of like mini abominations in that way.
Especially like we said, rules as written. Not a whole lot gets extra activations. You can draw a card that says hunters get extra activations, but that's pretty much the only way they're going to get an extra activation. And once you've drawn it, not going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, the Seeker workers are kind of the most terrifying to me. I had to keep tuning my deck and tuning more of them out because I had too many cards in the deck. I don't know why, but I had 11 in my deck. I don't know why. How many are there total that actually come in the game?
A set of them comes with 9 spawn cards and 2 Seeker mold cards.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd just rather play with the 6 cards
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the
6.
8 miniatures or whatever.
Yeah. I was playing with 11 and that was way too much. And I was like, no, this is terrifying. If you want a terrifying game, throw more of them in there. And I totally agree with Nate. Like, it's not as deterministic and they'll just spike and come and get you. Why do I only have 8 models? Or no, it's right. At Red, there's
That's
8.
what it came with.
I have 16 because of the extra, what's it called, pack.
Yep.
Promo Xenos. That's why I
I
have
do
more cards
like
too.
one more thing on the Seekers. I do like that they are just some workers that went to the gym, like visually speaking.
Yeah.
They look almost identical. They just have bulkier arms.
They're definitely not tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I painted their bases white, so it's much easier to determine that those are Seeker workers right there on the board.
It can be
Because
a little
otherwise they look too
indistinguishable.
similar. Yeah. They look way too similar otherwise. But yeah, they're downright terrifying if you have too many of their cards in your deck. So, it's a good way to tune your difficulty.
There we go. We
Yeah.
had a whole discussion about that before.
That's right. And we will still, even again here. Ha ha.
Oh, I'm
So-
sure. Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff for the campaign.
I think
So
we all
get
did.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What
We all
else?
took it as a challenge when people said it was too easy.
Seriously.
Challenge accepted.
It's really cool that the dark side of the campaign comes with those 3 companions for the scientists. I really like that, and for the Operation Persephone missions only. But of course, you can always make custom stuff, throw them in there. It's really cool. It's instead of just like more little tokens. I love that they produce more miniatures. And that, I like that.
Yay, more to paint.
Yeah, right. And then, in the whole dark side thing, so we didn't talk about this, and we're going to do our own full episode on dark side, but just real quick, it's a standalone expansion. So in other words, you can get just dark side as a standalone game, or you can get just Invader as a standalone game, or you could try to mix them. But from all the Zombicides, I'm just going to go out and say, like, these do not mix well. Like, we talked about how Invader is such a great ecosystem all on its own. Darkside is also its own great little ecosystem just on its own. And if you can mess it up too easily.
I think that's probably the worst thing you can do for the difficulty, if you're worried about that, is just mixing the drillers and the spoilers together.
I think this is along the lines of Green Horde. While you can mix Black Plague and Green Horde, it doesn't always work out like you want it to. It doesn't make things necessarily better. It might make things, more chaotic, which if you like, cool, go for it. But I think Darkside is a lot like Green Horde in the fact that it's the same game as Invader. It just doesn't mix as well with Invader.
Yeah, it's very similar. Even rules-wise, there's just like a few slight differences. You swap out outside for dark zones. You still can barely use regular weapons, but prototypes are fine. It's not really that different.
Yeah, the whole thing takes place underground. So instead of outside, above ground, it's dark zones. And there's a rule there. And it comes with a ton of red crab-like dudes. You're saying
I like
bugs
that
last
they're
time?
red. I like that they're that visually distinct, even though they're the standard zombies of this box.
Yeah, you were saying before bug-like dudes. These are crabs. These are clearly crab people.
Crabs are like bugs.
These are definitely more 40K inspired, Tyranid inspired creatures than the original Xenos.
I
I definitely think the hunters for these, they look as much like Gene Stealers as you could possibly make Gene Stealers look like.
Yeah.
They're absolutely awesome looking. I love the design. As a matter of fact, I like these sculpts way better than the original Invader sculpts. But that could be because I'm inspired by so much 40K lore in my head. And this game is absolutely awesome. Everybody that's listening to this, who doesn't own it, should go out and buy it and play it. But one of the things I'd like to point out here is this does introduce our first idea of dark zones, even though they're not going to be the same dark zones we're going to learn later. And the idea of these pits. These pits are kind of like mold, but they're not.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. I love the
Yeah,
difference.
I do think, and we'll get it there. I don't think pits are as interesting as mold, but I like that they're at least different. They're not just the same with a different look. One more thing I will say, the Driller Abomination, if you keep all your zombies in a big tub or bag, he's pointy.
He is.
You guys
very
probably
pointy.
don't since you paint everything. but
To be contained by a plastic bag. I'm sorry.
yeah.
It is a really great model.
Tasmanian devil is what I like to think of him as.
He'll stab your hand when you reach in there.
Let's see what else. There's gang packs. There's the Plague Survivor Pack. There's the Orphan Survivor Pack. Kabuki Survivor Pack. The Orphans.
I touched on this a little last time, where these survivor packs kind of expand the class system more than the core games really do. Because like we talked about the core game, you read the rules and you're like, oh, that's the big addition of classes. But these have class-specific abilities that they each get because they're specific kinds of soldiers. Each of these are like specific soldier units.
The orphans are the most interesting to people that have played modern 2nd edition because this tells you where they're going to go with the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these people have 2 wounds, but they all have slippery, which obviously is not called slippery in this version. But these are basically the kid that you're going to see in 2nd edition.
Yeah. I always forget 2nd edition technically has classes because they do the same thing Invader does, where it's like kind of barely anything.
So
It's not helped by the fact that there's like 3 of them.
I just checked it up. So we've got the orphans who all have unstoppable. They can like slip between the legs of these Xenos. The Kabuki survivors all start with from the search deck at the top of the game. If like start with a weapon. However, if it's not a weapon, they just discard it and they don't get it. And then the plague survivors, they can search for items anywhere, including in mold zones, because these people are used to, I think, accommodated to like stepping in mold zones and toxic zones, and they just don't mind getting their hands dirty.
They'll dig around in it. Yeah. It's very cool.
You know, Nate and Ryan, you actually bring up a good point that I'm not 100% sure that we covered in the last episode, where some of the new skills that the game brings into the Zombicide universe that we'll see going forward. Things like combat reflexes, a dual expert. They slightly changed camouflage, which we had seen rotten in before. As long as you didn't do any combat actions or make any noise, you wouldn't get hit by zombies. But in camouflage, you actually have to not be seen by zombies at the beginning of the turn for it to work. So there's several skills that this game brought into the fore that we would see going forward.
Yeah, combat reflexes is one of my favorite. I love that one, where it basically, if anything spawns in your line of sight, then you get a free action to shoot at it. Love that. It's so cool. And then
we talked about mission 4, the second mission we all did last time, where there's a bunch of hallways, and that is great because there's so many cross sections you can stand at with combat reflexes. I feel like it's a little situational in Invader because there's not a whole lot of hallways, not a whole lot of undisrupted line of sight in Invader, inside at least.
I didn't know about dual expert. So if you're dual wielding, when you have dual expert, you get a free combat action with your dual weapons. Is that what it does?
Right. Yeah, that's it. It's easy. Yeah,
it's a little situational, but
yeah.
I mean, considering you start off with dual weapons, it's not that situational if you just use it.
Oh, you know what's funny? Okay, last episode when James blew all our minds, like, yeah, you just give Baraka the 2 cattle prods and she could take out an abomination. We're like, whoa, we never would have thought of that. And then I looked in the rule book and I just happened to see like it has it as an example right there, written in the rule book. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, classic I'm not Sun Tzu, guys.
No, you're a genius. You're a tactical genius. We all know this. Yeah, so we talked about all the different gang packs. Do you guys like the gang packs? Do you use the gang packs? What do you think about the gangs?
I have them. I've never used them.
Same.
So I don't know. There's so many funny references to get through in the Kickstarter box before I use the original characters. So
I really dig the orphans pack. So I used all of the orphans as a 6 survivor group once. And that's actually, between that and some other stuff I was doing, that was the moment where I was like, this game is too easy. I need to start tweaking it. Because the orphans are great, but unstoppable on all characters changes the element of the game. Because Xenos just don't stop your movement. And especially with doors, you could just like run through a room full of Xenos and then close the door behind you. And there's a lot of shenanigans you can get up to. But I love the theming of the Orphan Survivor Pack, especially like they have a giant sort of butler robot, their friend.
Yeah.
I like
I
all
think-
three of them, but unfortunately, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but my group decided that this game sucked before I could play with them all, so
Oh no,
I didn't really play with them.
bummer. Yeah, I'm the same as
Kabuki
Schmedley.
is kind of an odd man out here for like that makes sense as like a sci-fi soldier group.
Yep.
But I kind of like that it's kind of weird like that.
Yeah, they're definitely very weird, like Japanese kabuki mask, kind of creepy looking people. You know, the
Yep.
way they're presented is really kind of creepy.
Yeah,
and
it's just like
kinda
oh,
cool.
okay, you have the child soldiers, you have like the hazard unit, and then you have these guys who do a play.
Right.
Like, all right, I
So-
mean they're good at it.
Being a big fan of Nurgle when I played 40K and fantasy, I love the Plague Survivor pack, like the
Yeah.
whole aesthetic, the Plague Doctor thing. Like
Mhm.
that's really cool to me. A lot of people made comments in the Kickstarter during the Kabuki that this was like leftover from the Rising Sun campaign, which I thought
Oh,
was ungenerous. I thought it was very ungenerous. I think they're cool. I love all that kind
I
of
think it's
stuff.
cool.
Also,
It definitely stands out as an odd addition, but I didn't mean that like I didn't like them. You can have
it's
kind of a weird
absolutely
addition every once-
absurd to suggest that, like, oh, Rising Sun was originally going to have a bunch of mercenaries with machine guns, but they didn't hit their funding they wanted to, so they just rolled it into this. Like, that's a ridiculous.
Isn't that a
Oh,
funny
my
world to
goodness.
live in though?
I will say for the Xenolease campaign, I decided I wanted to incorporate as much content as possible, so I picked my survivors were made of Mitsuki, a core person, a KS Kickstarter person, and then one from each of these packs to get a really eclectic mix of people, and they all performed really
Exactly.
well.
Nice. That's
So
cool.
did you give them their gang ability?
Yes, because I believe the gang ability still applies if you're only running one. It just doesn't apply to anybody else.
Yeah, I've always been like an all or nothing. Like, oh, I if I want to use one, I really should use all of them. So like, I haven't gotten around to using all of them in any given mission. And it's harder when, like, maybe Schmedley, you run into this too when you're playing multiplayer. Not just solo. When like everybody just wants to pick all the other fun things. Like, oh, I want to be
Yeah.
I want to be
Like, oh, there's
Blade Runner. Like,
Judge Dredd. I want to be that guy.
yeah.
Yeah. You want
Okay.
to talk about some of the Survivor references? or-
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of those. Yeah, so you mentioned
good segue.
Preacher Carl. He's Preacher Carl is and it's cool because it's Carl, like Carl Urban, right? So from Judge Dredd. So
Yep.
yeah, when I have
Yeah.
people over, we were
One
playing
of the
this
two
time.
Carls with professions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, are there two Carls?
Butcher Carl is the other one.
Oh, right,
He's the
right.
big guy.
But he's C, not K.
Yeah,
That makes
true.
all the difference.
All the
Uh,
difference. So what's his reference?
You don't know which one I'm saying.
Butcher Carl. Yeah. Who's Butcher Carl reference to?
Butcher Carl. So we were talking about this a little bit. It seems like there's not consensus. I always assumed it was a reference to the Twilight Zone because there was an episode of the Twilight Zone where there were aliens, they came to Earth. Their whole thing was they said, we're here to serve human. And then it was kind of wordplay because they meant eat, not butler. And when it was obviously it was originally radio, when it was made into television, they were depicted as pig people. So he's a pig who's a butcher. His name is Butcher Carl. That's kind of
Yeah.
where I thought it was. But James said people didn't really take it that way in the comments of this campaign.
Yeah, obviously in the comments in the campaign, people were going with the pigs in space reference. However-
fun.
There's another reference that people might like, especially all of our deceased fans that listened to our podcast a couple of episodes ago. So there's an idea running through this campaign what the overall arcing theme of some of the characters are, and that they're DC based. Now, bear with me. All right, let's put our tinfoil hats on and try to squint as you imagine this. But some people think that Amadi Sina, the guy in yellow power armor, is supposed to be Bane.
Mhm.
Nura Satar is supposed to be Butcher, is supposed to be Professor Pig.
Never heard of Professor Pig.
Sergeant Ook is supposed to be Killer Croc.
Yeah, I thought he looked like Croc.
Commander In Shish is supposed to be Deadshot. And Kilgore is supposed to be Hush or Deathstroke. So some people thought there was an underlying subtle Batman villain theme to this whole campaign.
That's so cool.
I feel like Bane occurred to me when I looked at whichever one you said. I don't remember the name.
Commander Ahmad, since you just passed it. Sorry, go.
Yeah, I can picture it. When I was looking through the cards,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the references. I was wondering, maybe that's Bane. That's all I could think of. But even that, I thought of Bane, but it's like, that's kind of a stretch even. And
I think they're all stretches. I'm just putting that out there. Take your 10
Also, if you're given, maybe it's a super popular villain I don't know about. If you're going to reference Batman villains, Professor Pig, imagine the top 6.
I don't even know that character.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there for you guys.
That's
I just might kind of find that interesting.
Yeah, maybe somebody on the team likes Batman.
And I'd like to give credit where credit's due. Obviously, I didn't come up with this. There was a poster on the Kickstarter comments named Vincent. So Vincent, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really like all of that theory, the way that comes together. My favorite reference in this game has got to be, of course, Dr. What is Doc Brown and Morty McAllister is Marty McFly. And I even got in like a DeLorean, like metal cast, what is it called? Like a DeLorean car, so that I can make like some, I'm sure I'm not the first one to think of or do this, but like, so I can make like some sort of mini campaign that's Back to the Future and like, custom missions that go from like Black Plague to modern to Invader or some crazy mix of that. I can't wait to do that. When I do, y'all be first ones to know.
So because I'm an old man, obviously Blade Runner spoke to me the most with these characters.
Yeah. Bunch of them.
But at the same time, what I really like about these characters, there's so many of them that are not homages to other people. Like I love the aliens. I love the non-human characters.
Yeah.
Even the guy that's supposed to be from District 9. Like I love the prawn, guy. And the other aliens. I think that's really cool. And I wish they would do that more with their fantasy themed survivors. Like, I don't think there was enough orc or dwarf or elf, survivors in the fantasy campaigns as there could have been.
Yeah.
And I really like the way they ran with it in this campaign is doing non-human survivors.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's another, just again, me on my soapbox about the Zombicide fantasy games, which is like, I want more fantasy out of it though. Like, give me more fantasy, not just like dudes fighting zombies in this setting. Give me more fantasy.
Dr. Falconer there, who's obviously based on the now late Stephen Hawking, is an interesting example of a known phenomenon in campaign exclusive characters, not even just in Zombicide. The same thing happens in Death May Die and I think Massive Darkness, where there's a bit of, weird to call it power creep, since they came out at the same time, less balanced skills in the campaign exclusive survivors. And Dr. Falconer is an interesting example because his blue skill is remote control all, which is just a better Mitsuki. It's simply an upgrade.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of examples where it's just better. Normally they have stronger skills, but it's less blatant than that. Sometimes somebody gets like a free combat action or a free ranged action. That's the other example.
Yeah, when I'm flipping through all the cards, it's so hard for me not to pick Dr. Falconer.
He's so strong. We hyped up Mitsuki last episode. Everybody thought she was the strongest because of her blue skill. It's just better.
Yep. It's also just a really cool sculpt and a really cool character. Like,
yeah,
it's a really fun thing to imagine. They had a character slightly like that in Alien Resurrection. There was a guy in a wheelchair, and he was a really cool guy. He was like an engineer, and he just added a very different like part of this like group of very different individuals. He had his own sort of place. And I think Dr. Falconer does that for this team too. Also, those are very big robot arm guns attached to his wheelchair, which are pretty cool.
Very threatening.
Yeah, I like the character. I didn't mean to say he was bad because of that. Kickstarter exclusive characters is also where we get all the like +1 damage at blue, and there's a whole discussion to be had about whether or not that's too good.
Yeah, so I get where you're coming from, Schmedley, and normally I'm I've said this before, I'm anti +1 damage of any kind, or super strength, or whatever you want to call it at blue. I don't think that his skill is that bad because you're still going to be focusing your attention on one thing or the other. Like the idea that he's just going to be going around with a bot, but at the same time controlling a sentry gun, I just don't see that being that often a case to worry about. It's nice that he's, dual lingual. That's cool. But I just don't see it as that powerful.
My main point is that it's interesting to have, because people always, it's an open secret that these characters are more powerful than the base characters, but it's interesting to have it be such a direct upgrade over one of the base survivors. It's like if in the first edition Kickstarter, there was a girl named Better Wanda who had 3 zones per move.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a good point. Some of my favorite pop culture references, we got a pair of Fifth Element characters, Lilu, Mila Jovovich's character, and she's even like in that classic like multi-pass pose, holding the little multi-pass. I love that. And then Gold Coast Gary, the ridiculously like Ruby Rod, so ridiculous. He's so obnoxious when you're first watching that movie, but after a while you just can't help but smile because he's just so over the top.
My favorite Chris Tucker role.
He's so great.
The level of commitment, over the top absurdity he brought to that character, I loved it.
So we hit this a couple episodes ago, and I'm just going to hit it again. Why can't we get a third character, right? Either get a Zerd, or why can't we get, obviously, the Bruce Willis character? Corbin Dallas, thank you.
Why?
Why? Why not?
Why?
Why no Corbin Dallas?
Yeah. Somebody out there must have sculpted that like on My Mini Factory or something, and we got to print it up and put it in our game, right?
Does he really look that different?
Oh, right.
Yeah, just bring up a new card.
Just paint some suspenders on him, maybe?
I think he's got more hair as Nick than he does as Corbin. You can do a little sandpaper, figure that one out.
I think one of my favorite Kickstarter minis is Lieutenant Emma Vogel, who I believe is a Ghost in the Shell reference. She's a full body cyborg. And that's just a real cool idea. I've always loved Ghost in the Shell. I feel like it does some really cool transhuman stuff in sci-fi, and having her in this Invader campaign is pretty cool.
So I think she's a really cool character, and I love that you're coming at it from that direction. I see her as Ex Machina.
Yes,
character.
that's
who
what I
she's
saw
supposed to
too.
be. And I think it's Alex Whelan, who directed that movie. That's who I see her as, and that's what I love about these characters is you can see them from, two sides of the same coin.
I saw Ex Machina too, but I think still totally works, is what you mentioned, which I already forgot.
Like Ghost in the Shell.
Yes, thank you. Ghost in the Shell. And it's cool. Let's see what else we got. The one that I didn't even notice, a buddy of mine, Drew, was when we came over and played our book club mission last time. He's like, oh, I get it. Cloud, like Nebula. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I never saw that before. Yeah,
Nebula.
It's just Cloud is just a male version of Nebula. I'm like, Nebula, Cloud, get it? And I was like, oh, that's really
Just make her green instead of blue, and she's completely different.
Does anybody, this is making me crazy. Does anybody know who Gavin Greaser?
Gavin Greaser?
Who is that?
He's a reference to Paul Bonner, the Zombicide
Artist.
artist. He looks a lot like Paul Bonner. So that's a very...
Okay. There's another one of those. The producer of these games, of many of these Zombicide and other CMON games, Thiago Arana, was immortalized in 8-Ball.
8-Ball.
And it's so funny because I remember posting online somewhere at some point, Board Game Geek or Facebook, whatever. I was like, oh, it's Jimmy Fallon. And they're like, no, it's Thiago. And it's so funny because if you've ever watched Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show, occasionally he has this thing where like people send him stuff like random pictures of random dudes that look exactly just like him. And I feel like I should send this in one of these days and be like, look, they made a character of you in this board game.
Picture, just a scan of the card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my Elton John take from a couple episodes ago, right?
Yeah, you're like, no, that's Elton John.
We investigated it live on stream.
And of course, we've got Kate, aka Starbuck, from the best sci-fi series ever.
Miss Sackhoff.
Yeah, Katie Sackhoff.
What is Ixnik Zik? That's something. It might be the document I don't hold up.
Is that the prawn? From District 9.
Yep.
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Read the lore. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted an excuse to say that again. No, watch a movie, Schmedley.
Well, you said there was no good sci-fi movies in the last 30, years, so maybe see District 9.
Yeah. So there's comic book extras out there. It wasn't part of this Kickstarter campaign, so a little bit out of scope of like what we're doing here. But yeah, there's been comic book extras volume 1 and volume 2. When it comes to comic book, and you can get some extra miniatures, extra Abominations, extra Survivors. And there's even, you might have slipped past the radar. It did for me. I had to get it later. The Android Netrunner set. So like that's pretty. Well, I think it's just called Android, but it's from Android Netrunner. And that's really cool to have those. And there's even a little dinosaur companion for one of the runners, which is really fun.
Yeah, Comic Book Extras Volume 1, I completely missed, and it is not cheap to get after the fact for the amount of stuff you get.
Yeah.
But Volume 2 I have, and I still haven't played with any of them. But I mean, the comics themselves are pretty cool. They are.
Honestly, I like both volumes. The miniatures are okay. At least they include missions, which is also cool. I like that. I guess where I draw the line as far as collecting is I don't know that I'm willing to go towards the Alone and the I'm sorry, what's the other one called? Project Elite. I don't know that I need those. I don't know if I need to buy whole other core sets and Kickstarters just to have a couple extra characters for a game that my friends are never going to play with me.
Project Elite
I
is
probably
a
don't need
game
those.
I've wanted to look into. It's on my longer than I'd like it to be list of games to eventually look into. But just for some survivors, I gotta agree with you. I'd never do that.
Project Elite is my, you might also like segment, Project Elite, because I haven't played it yet still. I have like all of it still over there, but it's basically real-time Zombicide Invader from what I understand.
Yeah, see, there you go. Just half an episode late.
It's made by, I know. It's made by Simon also, and it crosses over with Zombicide Invader. If you're lucky or if you're vigilant, you can get on eBay and you might be able to find someone just parting out a game and, you can get the miniatures. So I did. I got, it's great. I love adding the biters as extra workers, just different models. They function as workers from that game. And I just got the set of miniatures only. So that was really cool. And then it comes with, there's 2 more Abominations. There's the Gut Slug and the Thrax. And there's 4 survivors from like the core game. And then like another 4 or 6 from a really, really, really expensive, I haven't gotten yet, expansion. I haven't found it, or just the miniatures by themselves yet. But anyway, that's a way to go. If you want to try to get stuff from a crossover, not to get the whole game, check out on eBay or some other marketplace maybe, to just try and find those miniatures.
It doesn't have a lot of the brand collabs, but it does have Iron Maiden, because that was pretty cross-setting. So we have, I think, Bounty Hunter Eddie, and it was a weird one. Was it like Samurai Eddie?
Samurai Eddie.
Yeah. I don't know why he's in there, but he's in there.
Yeah.
They also have another $250 miniature you can get called Ava Dean. Sister Ava Dean. So if you really want her, you can spend $250 and get that one miniature.
She's $250 now?
Yep.
Damn. She was a Dice Tower exclusive, like a Dice Tower Kickstarter exclusive. By the way, the reference there, Sister Ava Dean, is Katniss Everdeen. She was a Dice Tower Kickstarter exclusive. Dice Tower does funding every year. And, you get a pack of stuff or, a good chunk of money, and you get a bunch of promos for a bunch of different games. Did we miss anything?
I think we've pretty much covered it.
Now we've
got accessories.
We
did keep accessories.
The tiles set, as far as I know, there's nothing unique here, right? Like, I don't need to go buy this, do I? Does anybody know?
Well, so that'd be Invader and Black Ops.
Yep. You're right.
Because I learned later that the Zombicide Classic had uniquely colored helicopters. So I was like, oh, now I got to go get those.
That's all it takes.
Man, I've got to start a business.
Selling exclusively to Ryan.
Yeah, I've got one person that I know is going to buy stuff.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting that the plastic token pack involves pits and mold.
Yeah. You don't have the plastic token pack?
No.
Oh.
I don't have any plastic token packs.
Let me tell you the one cool thing about the plastic token pack, because Ryan's going to complain about the colors of the objective tokens.
I sure am.
Let me preemptive that is they give you enough. They give you enough mold tokens to actually fill the board. When I talked to you guys last episode about 17 mold tokens, I couldn't do that just on Invader alone. Mm-hmm. Like I had to have all these plastic token packs, because I think you get 10 in Invader and 10 in Black Ops. You get a total of 20 mold zone with the plastic packs.
Yep, that's right, 20.
Yeah, and so the let me complain now. So the plastic token pack.
You have these ones too? Do they have the same issue?
No, not at all. Actually, it's okay. The paint jobs on these are fine, except for one of my noise tokens. They just did not paint one of the sides of one of them. It's just flat gray.
Oh, well,
But-
you need all your noise tokens to be perfect. So
Absolutely. Yeah, because I'm going to use all of them all the time.
Here's my
But,
problem with my noise tokens is one of my dogs chewed one, and now I got one chewed noise token,
Oh,
and it
man.
sucks.
You got to buy a whole new
my
pack.
problem
now.
is that mine are never used. Weird.
I don't like the plastic tokens because they're like the gray color with the painted details on top. It's just the contrast is bad. Yeah, like the black tokens are just so much nicer looking than the gray ones and actually easier to see. Some of the colors are really actually even hard to see on that gray.
I sprung for this actually after recording our last episode
Uh-oh.
because it was on Game Steward, and I'm the same thing.
Oh, you got them cheap then. You're
Yeah.
okay.
I did okay, but mostly I wanted them for the mold and the pit zones. And when I saw like these gray tokens, I was like, they don't read very well. The black reads so much better from across the table.
Mm-hmm.
Missed opportunity, but no regrets.
I love the Space Invader vibe from the little faces on the spawn zones.
Mm.
We didn't talk about this last time. Did you guys ever pick up that vibe?
Yeah.
I love that.
I get it. I never thought about it, but you're absolutely right. 100%. I'm hearing the music in my head right now while I'm looking at this picture.
Right. Yes. And then,
No, it's awesome.
So what I do really like about this plastic token pack that makes it worth it is the mold and the pit zones. They're thicker, they're beautiful, and they have they're just engraved a little bit, almost like an embossed, but they actually engraved. So they have a bit of dimension and they definitely have that premium feel. And they're really nice. The
I
fire,
can't quite tell from this picture. Is the mold easier to distinguish the sides? Is it maybe a little less reflective? Because that was the big problem with the cardboard one.
I was just going to
Is
say
that they were so reflective, they kind of looked the same.
So they're more of a matte finish than the cardboard. So there's no glare. I want to say there's no glare, but the red and orange color contrast is not as good on the plastic ones as it is on the cardboard ones. So if you're not facing a glare issue, the cardboard ones are better in that way. But otherwise, like the texture that they've kind of sculpted or engraved into them, in addition to the art that's on there, is just such a nice touch.
All right.
3D plastic doors. I think anybody that's listened to our podcast before would say my second addition that anybody should get is 3D plastic doors for the games, whether you're playing Classic Modern or you're playing Black Plague Fantasy. The doors work absolutely brilliantly. They're beautiful doors. And if you were in the Kickstarter, they're only $10, but you use doors so little that they're just not worth it. I mean, I love them. I have them. I play with them. But if you're going to I need to save some money, save your money on these doors. They're just not used that often. If you're playing Modern or Fantasy, you're using doors every single game. So they're absolutely a must purchase. This game, I don't know, you might play 3-4 missions and never use a door. And there's only a couple of missions in the book that even use doors as a starting thing. So when I first saw these doors, I was like, 11 plastic doors, how's this going to work? And then I read the rules and started playing the game. And I was like, oh, wait, you don't actually need doors. So you don't actually need these tokens. And then the deck holders, I think these are really bad. I hate these. There are people that make 3D versions of these, Ryan being one of them, that are a lot better than these. These are a horrible design. I would save your money on those. Sorry, that's just my opinion. I love to love things, but that's my honest truth opinion on those two.
Well, they just fall apart on you. That's the problem for me anyway.
I got these and I've loved them, but I
Really?
don't admit that publicly.
No, I mean, that's why I'm a neutral party.
No, they're fine. I mean, they hold cards. They do that well enough. But apparently Ryan has an upgrade, so I'll have to teach that.
Yeah, I loved them too until they started falling apart enough on me. And then I liked how they were colored and I liked that they hold the cards. I was like, why haven't I been doing this? And then I just made better versions of them myself. So now I don't use them anymore. I really like these dice. I love the sci-fi vibe.
Yeah, I was going to say that. The first time I saw these dice, I think, the first time I remember seeing them was when I was researching for my stats. And this is probably the add-on from a past Zombicide that I regret not being able to back the most. Because these are my favorite exclusive dice I've seen in Zombicide, with the exclusion of maybe the Justice League ones in DC. Those are also pretty
Oh.
cool.
Those look amazing.
Yeah, but these look really cool. I wish I had them. I might look for them.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
a simple
so.
man. I like
Yeah.
simple dice.
I was going to say this goes back to James' thing of like, there are 2 special symbols on these dice. And I've used these dice enough that I use them, I like them. But if I was playing with someone who was new for the first time, the idea of having to remind them, they're like, no, the alien symbol doesn't mean you kill an alien. It just means the worst possible result. And
Yeah.
the target symbol means you kill an alien, not the alien symbol.
If you're going to make special dice, just do one number. Whether it's 1 or 6, it doesn't matter which one. Just
Especially-
do one.
So,
Tell us about the friggin' dice, Ryan.
yeah, the frigate dice. I really like the pips on them. Totally give
Yep.
me like Predator vibes when he's
Yep.
doing
I
his
do
little.
like, yeah, that's
his
what's
little
making
arms
me
thing.
like them so much is
Yeah.
that like all the numbers are kind of getting in on the theme instead of just the 1 and the 6. How you guys feel about these counters?
$15 for sets of counters is steep. But do you guys have them? Do you use them? Do you like them?
I don't have them.
I bought a set of them and I love them. The white
Oh,
ones
okay.
went on my Seekers, so you know which ones are the Seekers. No, the black ones went on my Blitzers because the Blitzers look a lot like
Yeah.
the tanks. And the gray ones went on my Green Horde Runners. So no regrets. Great investment.
All right, let's get into our book club mission. The Gaming Night number 2, the Xenoleak Saga. This is a whole campaign of 3 missions. Yeah, Nate, you want to read the story time?
I would love to. Mitsuki has uncovered a massive evil scheme involving Smart Star Technologies, a large corporation. After a clandestine landing on PKL-7's surface, they have begun cloning and altering the genetic code of the infected Xenos to transform them into an uncontrollable army of enormous power. But in the end, the Xenos escaped their cells and killed everybody in the facility. Sooner or later, Smart Star will come to retrieve the assets, and these monsters will pose a major threat to the universe. Mitsuki has decided to gather a group of survivors, invade Smart Star's facilities, get to the thousands of bio-altered Xenos, and blow everything up.
Hell yeah.
There you go. You read the lore.
Read the
I will
lore.
say, I think it's super interesting just
I
from
supposed
there.
to-
I think it's
I'm in.
interesting that because we had something kind of like this in 2nd edition where individual base survivors had missions.
Mhm.
But this is like a campaign where Mitsuki gets like a narrative arc. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. On the one hand, I was like, oh, I can't like just pick any survivors that I want to. I have
Yeah,
to
you
bring
only get
Mitsuki,
5.
but it was okay. Like it was worth it because of the story.
We all said we liked Mitsuki the best last episode. So if it had to be anybody.
The campaign special rules. Each mission is played with 6 survivors, including Mitsuki. At the end of each mission, survivors may choose to keep up to 2 prototype weapons and 2 energy cell cards they have collected for the next mission. The survivor holding the equipment rolls 5 dice for each card. If they roll a 1 on any of their dice, the equipment card is discarded and may not be used in the next mission. This is actually why we chose this, because it's kind of neat. That, like, this is an early version of
It's
what
a
they
few-
did with the
yeah.
all-out dice and mechanic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was James's pitch for doing this one. Yeah, so thanks for that, James. That's pretty cool that we got to get a taste of this before we play the campaigns in 2nd edition. It's really neat to see them, to start to do these things and then actually implement them officially into other products as well. And then let's see, you write down the remaining kept equipment cards in the campaign notes on the last page of this thing, on this PDF. There's like there's a chart that you can print out and you can write in your stuff for this campaign. Old classic pen and paper style. And then you can distribute them as they please among survivors to set up the next mission. So your survivor's not stuck with their equipment that you might be able to keep. You can distribute them. Armor value is not refreshed between missions. However, beginning the 2nd and 3rd missions, survivors may distribute up to 6 repair points between them in any way they please. Each point restores 1 armor up to the base level.
It seems kind of lenient. We never didn't
Yep.
restore to full with 6.
Oh, I have stories. I have stories to tell.
Yeah.
The survivors always begin with 0 XP at the start of every new mission, and then ongoing game effects previously applied to the survivor no longer apply, which is interesting. Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, starting off, maybe we should talk about who did everybody bring. Obviously, we all had Mitsuki. You want to talk about the other 5? Because I know Nate said you kind of just
Sure.
broke it up. So yeah, I had Dr. Falconer, like I
Mhm.
said, because I like the remote control all. I had Phaedra and Ixnix Zik because I talked a lot about action economy, free search action, and a free move action. And then I had Commander Morton and Dr. Dick just because I thought the reference was funny. And I had 2 more slots.
What reference was that?
Rick and Morty?
Oh, I'm
Probably
just-
can't see it very good. But yeah,
Yeah.
those are the Rick and Morty ones, Commander Morton and Dr. Dick. They're not the best skill-wise. I went on a whole rant about how exclusives are better, but I'm not big on Brothers in Action. Tough is kind of good, but Commander Morton is a soldier with 2 health and not the best blue ability, so that just kind of makes him worse.
Mhm.
What about you, James?
Yeah, so I went with a mix of characters. Some people might be disappointed to realize that I broke the rules here. And
Oh,
I did
no.
not pick Mitsuki because I thought the entire idea of
Oh my
Mitsuki
God,
was just
cheater.
show she could control a bot, right? So my idea was I just needed a character that could control a bot at blue. That was my idea. So I took Dr. Falconer. I took Gold Coast Gary with Lucky because he's basically like any other character that starts with Lucky.
Lucky.
I took Commander Amati because another character started with Shove. I took Preacher Carl because another character in the base box starts with 6 armor points. I took Laura that has +1 dice combat, and I took her because I'm trying to mix things up now with new characters. And then I took Carlotta because we all love Vasquez, right? Can't
That's
play a
right.
game without Vasquez. Escalating range, a new skill to try out. So my idea with this whole idea was to play with new characters, but they were only in the civilian pledge, not the soldier pledge box, is what I kept myself to. Nate?
Nice. I wanted 6 characters that all came from different boxes. So I've got Mitsuki. Then from the Kickstarter Extras box, I got Emma, my Ghost in the Shell reference, or Ex Machina. From these Orphans box, I got Baby, who can search really well and has Unstoppable. From the Kabuki one, I have Uiwa, who has Brother in Arm point blank. So if you're standing in her zone, you can shoot your guns at range 0. Then from the Plague Gang, Carmen, who gets +1 to dice roll unranged. And finally from Black Ops, I took Maria, who has combat reflexes. So that's my crew.
My career brought a lot. You know, James, is this the first time in Zombicide history you broke a rule? This is crazy. This is blasphemy.
It'll only happen here. So mark it down.
Okay, marking it down. I brought in Mitsuki. I also brought Massimo. His blue is enhanced senses. That's like, oh yeah, some better ranged here, I guess. Maria, I also picked. Combat reflexes is like one of my very favorite skills in any Zombicide game. It's just so fun. Kilgore, who I can't, for some reason, I had them a second ago, but I can't find his card. What's his blue? Kilgore is blue.
Is he Reaper? He's an
Yes.
awesome miniature.
Yes.
I love his little feet.
Yeah. Kilgore. Yes. Thank you. He's Reaper ranged. So that Reaper is always really good. And then Ixnix Zik I also had. And I just love his free search. You know, I got to have somebody with that utility. And then Captain Warlock was my kind of surprise VIP. He has a blue charge ability, which is not as good as I think Hit and Run. Like you can't move and den it.
Charge is great.
Yeah.
2 zones to a zombie Xenos and it doesn't take an action. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Well, and then you get his orange up and you get a +1 free melee action. Like you could do so much and you haven't even taken the actions, like officially actions yet. It's incredible.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah. He was great. He was great.
Mission 1, the reaction virus. Mitsuki has called upon an old friend and great computer engineer, Dr. Agori, to help end this nightmare once and for all. The plan is to deploy a computer program called the reaction virus into Smart Star's central system, causing a self-destruct sequence to begin. However, the only way to deploy this virus is through one of the security bots. Everything was going fine until Doc was attacked by the infected Xenos along the way. To carry out our plan, we must now retrieve the device with the reaction virus from the Doc's belongings and upload it to one of the security bots.
All right, yeah. So this mission, it's very interesting There's a few objectives. Everybody has to get an oxygen tank, making it the third mission where that's the case. So I'm glad oxygen is getting more use. There's a face-up blue objective that you have to gather. I think the purple one is face down. There's no sentry turret, though. And then you have to reach the exit and bring the bot with you because it's going to travel with you to the other missions, which is neat. And the oxygen room, I think there's only one in the map, right? Can you scroll down? I think there's only one oxygen room in the bottom.
Well, the problem is there's only 2 oxygen cards in that oxygen room.
I think there's 4 in the room, and there's 2 sets.
Right. And you got to get the other objectives to get that.
And then the other objectives that aren't... So only 4 of your 6 people that need it have it, and you also have to find the red objectives, the one that aren't green, white, and purple, which also do special things. I think the white one is the camouflage suit. Yeah, the invisible suit. It doesn't do anything this mission, but it has some effects starting next mission.
Yeah.
I had a pretty simple time in this. I mean, the green objective was one of the first ones we got, and then at that point, half of our party could control the bot, so the bot was doing a whole lot of damage. And we found... I don't think we ever found the purple. We found the white. I forgot to use it in the other 2 missions, but we found it. And I should say now, I failed this mission a few times, which doesn't happen very often because I'm so cool and amazing at games.
Well, yeah.
But I added a few too many house rules for the difficulty, where I used Ryan's stumbled upon extra activation hard mode, which we talked about last episode. And on top of that, I was ruling that all non-spoiler Abomination drop mold on extra activation, every extra activation. The same way
gosh.
Driller Abominations do. And I lost to mold twice. I lost to extra activations once. And I'm like, maybe I could tone this down a little bit. So I made it so they only dropped mold on death. And I went the rest of the campaign like that, it was still hard, but I got through it. I think I failed mission 2 once, but I mostly stopped failing with that slight change. So go ahead and try that if you think it's too easy.
That's wild.
But the successful version of this one, we found the green one the first time, and then the bot was just kind of following us around, doing almost all the combat. And I do owe James an apology here. One of my failed ones, the Widowmaker Abomination spawned. It was in a place where if it dropped a mold, if it got an extra activation, we would have lost. It would have connected to the 2 spawn points. And that is a situation where my free move action did nothing, but taunt would have been good. So that was my hill to die on last episode, and I died on it.
What all did you put in your spawn deck?
In my spawn deck, besides that, I had I think I had 2 of each Kickstarter Abomination card, and then 4 spoilers. But other than that, it was just the hard horde zombies. I had the flingers and stuff too, half of each, I think, because I didn't want to dilute it too much.
Okay, so like half of
the flingers and the seekers and the xenomobs. Yeah, I think I put more seekers in there because the seekers need you to have a lot of seeker cards. What about you, James? Any stories?
Yeah, all 3 of these missions, I removed the first 25 cards from the rulebook. That's what they say you should do if you want to make it a challenging game. So that's what I did. I added 6 flinger cards. I added 6 seeker cards. I added 6 xenomorph cards for all the 3 games, right? So 9 cards, you know what I've added there. What I did do was I changed my abominations for each game because I wanted to see how these abominations worked. I didn't just want to put all the abominations in there because then it just seems like you don't actually see how any of the abominations work. So for the first game, I added the Widowmaker and the Stomper to this game. And the Widowmaker made this game really, really difficult. As you can see, it's a 4-tile game, and abominations can move 2 zones and then get extra activations based on abominations being pulled. You can kind of see where this is going. This game took me 3 times to win. The first time, it took me 7 turns to lose. Basically, because Widow Abomination come, hit somebody, kill them, right? Second time, it took me 13 turns. Same thing. Widowmaker, show up, kill me. Third time I won it, it took me 11 turns to win. And what took me so long is I got wrapped up into tile 4R, spending too much time searching, getting my oxygen tanks and trying to get the right kit because I had flingers show up in that purple spawn zone. And you just can't run out there and go grab those objectives when there's flingers out there because those flingers are going to hit you, right? So that was a big problem for me. I did not change my tactics on this game. I just ran the same tactics. I would send a couple of people towards tile 7R to grab that objective, grab the bot, head back with it as quickly as I could, and then make my way around in a clockwise motion. I would say the biggest problem that I had was the Xenomorphs. And the Widowmaker is obvious because he gets to go twice, right? Every time he activates. But the Xenomorphs, we brought up before that they're crows, but they're not crows. One, they can't just fly through anywhere. But the worst thing is you cannot kill them in melee. That's the biggest problem with Xenomorphs. So if they get in your zone, how are you dealing with them, right? So you have to have a character with shove, or you have to have somebody with a sniper rifle, or you have to have somebody with point blank, or you have to have somebody that can deal with that. So them having the fact of getting to you in 3 zones and not having a way to deal with that is a real problem. And that was a problem for me in the first couple of games. But once I realized that rule, then I kind of realized I had to keep my guy with shove around to deal with that. So the Xenomorphs are a real threat, way worse than crows. Crows are speed bumps. Xenomorphs are a real threat. Otherwise, I can say this game felt to me, this whole mission felt to me like some other missions I've played from season 3 or even Green Horde, where you're only going to win them if you get the right spawn cards that pop up. I just happened to win on that third try because I wasn't getting abominations early, or I was getting abominations in the right order where I could kill them. I did keep track. Each time I played, I killed abominations twice. Every single game with starting weapons. I just want to keep track of that. Just to say it can be done.
Yep.
And so, but it did take me 3 games to win. So I won it on the third one. Nate?
Well, first I'll start by saying I didn't realize Xenomorphs could not be killed by melee actions, so I killed a lot of Xenomorphs by melee actions because that's a very convenient way to kill them if you're going to do it.
I was too slow to go like, face palm again because I made that realization. Sorry to cut you off, but I made that realization like way late into my third game of this campaign, third and last game of the campaign. And I was like, oh, wait, was that a thing? I'm not even going to look at the rule right now. Yep. And you know what? I'm going to blame it on the fact that why do they have cards for the rules for some of these things and sheets for the rules of some of the other things, right?
That is annoying. That's something that they don't stop doing for a while.
Yeah.
So
the second edition is the same way.
My deck for this game, I used my own, my deck rules.
Great.
So, the rule of thumb is, if you're going to add a 6-card set, like a Flinger or a Xenomorph, you add those in, and then you add 2 Abomination cards, 2 Spoiler Abomination cards, and a random Mold card. And if you've done that, you've sort of retained the ratio of Spoiler Abominations and Mold cards. Seekers are a bit trickier because there's 9 of them, and they come with their own Mold spawn cards, but generally, if you're adding in Seekers, add 3 Spoiler Abominations and I think 2 Mold spawns. I have the rules up. But really what you're trying to get to is basically 1/5 of the deck should be Spoiler Abominations, and I think around 15% of the deck should be Mold. And if you're there, you're kind of playing in that same ratio that the core set would offer, and that's what I like. From there, I built an abomination deck out of every abomination in the game. I just shuffled them all together and sat them aside. So the rules are, if I draw a spoiler abomination card and there is no spoiler abomination in play, I spawn the spoiler abomination. If I draw a spoiler abomination card and there is a spoiler abomination in play, I draw the top card of the abomination deck and spawn that one instead, which might also be a spoiler abomination card because I kept some in there, but that way you just never know what that second abomination out the gate is going to be. When I played this the first time through, I lost the robot at the end of turn 1, and I didn't remember that you needed to win. So then I fought through a long, bloody battle, got to the exit zone, and was like, sweet, I'll just double check to make sure I won. No, I actually lost hours ago. So I had to play the second time. But the second time I did, I got all the objectives. I got everything. And I equipped, for the rest of the campaign, it would be orphan baby with the camouflage suit. So she has unstoppable and camouflage. And so that's just cool. The little invisible orphan just running around with no fear.
That's incredible.
Ryan, what did you think?
Yeah, what did you do?
Yeah, so thank you, Nate, again for your deck. What do you call it? The rebalanced something? What's the full name of it?
Yeah, like rebalanced spawn deck for classic difficulty. It should have a better.
Yeah, I like it. The rebalanced spawn deck. I used your system to a T. It's great. I totally recommend everybody try it out. It feels like it brings back, it just does everything that I wanted it to do. It allows me to put all the fun stuff, all the fun toys in, and it retains that balance. And I'm always getting spoiler abominations, trying to mold the place up, trying to poop
I
up
don't have top of mind. Let's just make it nightmare mode.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's not nightmare mode. It's, again, having my cake and eating it too. I'm getting all the fun stuff and I'm getting the balance back of the spoiler abomination still being a threat. And so, yeah, it is harder. It is more difficult.
So, question, what do you think a win rate should be? Like, how many times should you be able to play a game and win or lose? What should it be?
So I've talked about this before. My philosophy with tuning difficulty is that I think every game should feel unwinnable towards the middle, and then you get through it anyway. I think win rate it can still be fun with win rate near 100%, but only if you question whether or not this is the exception.
Nate, what do you think a win rate should be?
I think if I'm winning 1 out of 3 times, it's a hard scenario, but I like it. Like it's giving me a good challenge.
So 33%.
So 33% is probably where my golden preference for a hard scenario is. Medium is probably like 50-50. Like I might lose once, but okay. Now that I've been beaten, I'm going to go back in and I'm probably going to win.
Ryan, what do you think it should be?
Yeah, I guess in general, like 50-50 is kind of just a generic thing I want to say for all co-ops. Should be the win rate that I like.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's how I built my spawn deck. Nate's awesome rebalance. And if you want reference to that, there's a Board Game Geek thread, and we can link that in the show notes. And the other thing about it that is great, which is I do the same thing of having like the regular spawn deck and then a set aside abomination deck. And then for the equipment deck, I threw in everything because I was like, let's go. Like, what's going to happen? Like, what kind of craziness is this going to be? And I have some thoughts on the equipment. It's so... like, oh my gosh, the Black Ops and Darkside equipment, some of it is so friggin' overpowered, but it kind of balanced out because of how much more varied and difficult and pretty random and chaotic the deck is when you throw everything in. Like the friggin', okay, I got a couple here. The Solomon Chainsword, 6 dice, you hit on a 4 or better, and it's 2 damage each. The Pit Saw, 3, James probably hates all of these. 3 dice, 3 or better.
I like the Pit Saw back because that was like an overpowered weapon from Prison Outbreak.
Yeah, the concrete saw.
The concrete saw was 3 dice at 5+ doing 3 damage, but a lot of times you had to find it.
Yeah,
right? It wasn't part of the equipment deck.
Yeah,
I believe it was a pimp weapon, which was not used very much. So low odds.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, 3 dice, 3 or better, and it does 3 damage, on each hit. And you can put an energy cell and you can reroll with it. Same with the Solomon Chainsword. The Nova Cutters are also
they're
really
pretty good.
All the chainswords and the
we talked
Weaver
about how
sword
this is
are
really where
cool.
melee shines.
Yeah. Unless you got Xenomoths.
Apparently, yeah.
And then the other main one is the Pyre minigun. It's a flamethrower that has escalation. And you can use it beyond just putting a canister on it and
it's
getting a
also
Hellfire. Yeah,
I think there's just a regular minigun too, isn't there?
There's 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kept lucking out and I kept getting all this gear that I've mentioned every game. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, escalation is great. Escalation is one of my favorite abilities.
That's another new skill that they added to this game.
Is this the
it
first
makes
time
everything so much easier. Yep.
This game loves having you roll more dice. It's the whole deal.
Sure
and
does.
making it easier.
Yeah, it's such a run and gunner. And I feel like, my headcanon for the design room for this game, they're like, once they brought in Carlotta, aka Vasquez from Aliens, we talked about earlier, they're like, escalation, right? She's got a minigun. And every time, yeah. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, escalation for anybody who doesn't know is every subsequent ranged attack that you do, you get an extra die. So if it rolls 3 dice, then on the second action you're rolling 4 dice, and the third action you're rolling 5 dice, and so on. So yeah, that's fun times. And I really liked this. I really appreciated the pit spawn cards. Even though I didn't put any drillers in my spawn deck, it was cool to have them show up rarely, and for them to ruin my plans if I was really parked in a zone. And just like, I'm just going to park here and spam search until I get all the perfect gear. And then boom, like every time I tried to do that, boom, pit spawn. Nope, you can't anymore. The zone is broken. You can't search it anymore. And you have to deal with it. This one little crap guy. So that was fun. Okay. That's the general stuff. I really like combining all of the starting equipment and then dealing it randomly to my survivors for starting. That's fun. So sometimes you get
Dark side stuff, or
yeah. So all the dark side, all the black ops, and all the invader starting equipment cards, I just put them into a deck and shuffled and dealt them randomly. I dealt them out randomly, but I still chose who got what. So that was
interesting. I think the black ops
pistol would be so much better than a submachine gun. Like that's a lot better.
Yeah. And I liked it. It didn't feel totally out of whack, out of balance for me. It was just a fun way to vary the start of the game.
Did that include the search drones? Or?
Yes, it did.
You get the two, so yeah.
That means you could just start with fewer weapons. Say if you were only dealing 6.
Yeah, that was fun. I recommend trying it out. And I still only gave 1 item per survivor. I didn't do the 2 like they do in the rules for whichever one it is. So then for this actual mission, I after a few rounds, still sort of early game, the Iris Sentry Gun came out, that abomination we were talking about.
I never saw him.
And
I saw either of the bots.
Yeah, this is the very first time I ever, because again, like in the past, I was like, oh, bots, like a pass. Like I'm not going to put him in the deck. But this time I'm like, I'm throwing everything in. And it just kept extra activating, therefore moving and doing 3 damage to Massimo and killing him. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm not putting this in the deck ever again. I know, poor Massimo, but I was like, this is stupid. I'm not using these things. I was right. These are dumb. And then now I've learned like, I can control them in between that. So I might try them again. But ultimately, I don't know. I might still just like only putting a Xenos in that spawn deck. But yeah, so I just decided that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to grind through this because I had a really crazy couple of weeks with like work and stuff. I was very busy. I was like, I'm just going to house roll through this. Let's do this. So instead of calling it, I decided, okay, now I'm going to use the Zombicide First Edition campaign rules that we played a couple episodes ago, where if a survivor dies or just downed, they can come back with 1 health on the next mission. And then after the mission, I realized like, there's the whole rules of like, you have the 6 repair points that you can use. So I just used that instead of having them automatically come back with a wound. And that got interesting, actually. So I turned this into a survivor elimination game, which I actually really enjoyed. It created more tension in that way, rather than just any one survivor dies and then you lose and you got to start over again. So then, let's see. So then like the sentry gun ended up taking out another survivor, kind of one after another. I did find the white objective, and Ixnix Zik got it. And nice. he ended up being my little reconnaissance, stealth guy for this. All right. So yeah, mission 2, Armory Assault. Let me scroll to here.
You want some flavor of your text?
Flavor us up.
Go for it.
All right. Mission 2, Armory Assault. R.I.P. Dokagori. Now that we have the reaction virus and the bot that will be our gateway to implement the plan, we will avenge him. But before we can continue the mission, we need to improve our weaponry. How about paying a visit to Smart Star's armory? Our little bot friend seems to know the way. If we're lucky, we might be able to find some valuable schematics for the laboratory security system. Those would definitely come in handy.
I forgot to mention, in the last one, I used one of my scientist companion miniatures as Dokagori laying on his side where that objective was.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, this mission, you need to pick up 2 red objectives and then leave. Where the exit zone is not on the board, you also need to find that. It's the white objective that's face down. There's also the green one for control of the bot. It is interesting that there's still codes. You lose the codes to the bot. I guess that's why they give you Mitsuki. But doesn't that feel weird as a continuous thing? that you go to a new level with the same bot, but you can't control it anymore.
The batteries in your remote control, right?
Yeah, I guess, or something. So in this one, there is the security maps you can find. You can find the purple security map and the green security map and the blue security. I will say I did also lose this mission, and it's because very early on, we killed an abomination. I believe it was the Stomper in a zone with an objective. It was a red objective. Now there's not 2 red objectives. So it made the mission unwinnable by the rules of mold. That counts as a loss. I've never encountered it before now,
Nice.
but that does count as a loss. On my second time, it went pretty all right. Nothing really of note. The white objective, I don't even think we ended up finding the green objective, because the white objective was the next one we looked at after we took the 2 reds. Other than that, we did take the purple and blue just because they were there. And I think this is one where we did take a significant amount of damage, but it still wasn't. Most of my guys only had 2 health anyway, so 6 is enough to heal us all to full. I think only Dr. Falconer had 3.
Oh, did you were you able to keep any weapons or energy cells coming into this one?
So we did keep some sledges, but we rolled really badly. We got to keep 2 sledges, and that's it.
Sledges? They're supposed to be prototype
Yeah, you
weapons or
can't do
energy
that.
cells.
Prototype weapons?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, we kept 2 sledges.
They're prototype sledges.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
No energy cells.
This mission took me 3 times to win as well. However, 2 things I could say about it. One, I actually had to change my tactics to win it the 3rd time, which I find interesting. I love the idea that you can't win something, so you actually have to do something different. The last mission was just about what random card pulls I pulled. 4 squares, 4 spawn points. There's not a lot of control there. But in this one, the first time I sent half my group north to the upper quadrants to gather objectives, while the other half was trying to hold off what was coming from the south, right? Second time, same thing, only I actually lost the game because of friendly fire. So everybody says why would you ever do friendly fire? Well, I had a chance where there was xenomorphs in my zone, and I couldn't deal with them, so I had somebody else next to them. The only way I could kill the xenomorphs was to shoot them, right? But of course, I missed enough times to kill the survivors, thus triggering a loss effect, right? So xenomorphs, not crows, they're a problem.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
right? Just know that. Third time, I actually changed my complete tactics. And I thought to myself, you know what? I got an invisibility cloak. I got to go with shove. How about I just go up north with that guy and I just take all the objectives and I can be invisible. And then if I get in trouble, I can just shove shit away. And the rest of my 5 characters can go down and deal with everything else. So that's what I did. I sent one guy up to deal with the other 4 objectives. He had invisibility and or camouflage, sorry. And he had shove, while the other 5 characters killed everything else until I could get the other 2 objectives. And then I found the exit and won. And that's how I won the 3rd objective.
I had a pretty similar experience to your 3rd time through, which was I just took my little orphan with Unstoppable. I gave her the camo suit and I sent her off north. And so she actually wasted several turns because she would have to she got on top of the objective and then something horrible would spawn that would have killed her. So without taking the objective, she had to spend all her actions to run back inside and then maybe try it again the next turn. But as long as she was careful, she wasn't going to get killed. And then the rest of the team just went down to the bottom, collected those objectives. And we had a good time. Remember playing with Xenomorphs on the easy mode where we just killed Mailbag because
Nice.
fine. Yep. Yeah. It's nice if you could do it. So this one was fine for me. Baby really pulled her weight.
Yeah, for this one, I kept tweaking the spawn deck a little bit. I took the bots out of the Abomination deck since I was playing it on Nightmare mode. And yes, I was playing Xenocrows, new moniker for them. And I also, just to add more stuff to my my regular spawn deck, I added 3 Driller Blitzer cards and took out 2 tanks and 1 hunter card to make that exchange. And that was fun. I liked seeing those guys come into play. It didn't really add a lot of difficulty or take any away. It was just more variance, more fun that way. But even still, like, you know, in that configuration, the game is like really hard, impossible maybe, you know, which is again why I still kept the house rule for survivor elimination, which felt right to me and it felt fun. It felt cinematic again, like you get with first edition. But the main threat was seeker workers. They were still way too much of a threat. Like they were the things that kept killing everything. And so I was like, I need less of these in the deck. That's when I discovered I had 11 of them. I was like, let me take this down a bit. This was a long grind.
You guys had so many problems with that.
Yeah. This was a long grind of a game. Probably like 3 hours plus. And, I did the same tactics. So it's so fun to hear. Like, yeah, I put, camouflage, on Ixnick Zik and, you know, ran them up north while the other 5 survivors worked their way, you know, down to the southern building. And got through all the ground, you know, did a grind through all the objectives. The white objective ended up showing up in the upper left, red objective spot, and that's where the exit was. So it kind of flowed nicely. It took Ixnick Zik forever, but I thought it was kind of fun thematically. That Ixnick Zik is like a bug, basically, and he's in camouflage and all the Xenos are just walking right by him. I was like, this works. I like this. Yeah, so that was fun. It was, again, kind of a long grind, but I got through it. And with my survivor elimination rules, I think it was down to 2 survivors by the end, but they got out, and it was, you know, it was a nail biter. But eventually they got out. And
Nice.
Mitsuki, of course, was one of them. I had to, you know, sacrifice everybody until it was Mitsuki with her bot and my MVP, Captain Warlock, and we got out of there. And I kept putting the ridiculous Solomon Chainsword on Captain Warlock. 6 dice, 4 or better, 2 damage each. It was a good time because he kept charging and meleeing, free charge, free melee with that thing and just wrecking everything in his path. So yeah, just one attempt with my survivor elimination rules. I like this in the context of just adding a bunch of other random, extra, chaotic, crazy stuff.
Yeah, I kind of disagree there because that's what they're trying to do with the Kickstarter stuff is to try and make it more difficult. I think one of the things we all agree out of the box, 54 spawn cards, this is a very easy version of Zombicide, right? And so they're adding all these other additions to make it more difficult. But then you're just saying, well, I want to change the rules in my way to where I don't make it difficult, but I don't agree with the way you're making it difficult. And so, I mean, I don't know how you're balancing that. The fact that the Widowmaker goes twice, right? So he's trying to get to you and you got 12 Abomination cards. And so 12 Abomination cards are trying to get to you and they kill you. That makes it difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
I somewhat disagree that the Kickstarter just makes it more difficult because I've played before where you have the starting deck and you shuffle in all the extra Horde zombies and all the extra Abominations, and it's still pretty easy. The lack of mold is like a huge deal in making it easier. I agree that you can use those to build a harder game, but I just using the Kickstarter stuff doesn't make it harder. I think if anything, without extra thought, it makes it easier. And that was separate to the losing a survivor thing. Losing a survivor is kind of up to the table. I think that's a situation where you're like, what do you guys think? And if you're playing solo, maybe you...
Do you think it makes it easier or harder?
Saying you can go on definitely makes it easier because that's a loss condition that's removed. It might make the rest of the mission hard. I was just saying that the Kickstarter content, I don't necessarily agree that it intrinsically makes it harder unless you put in the extra effort to balance the spawn deck.
But yeah, I hear you, James. Like, I'm not quite balancing it, right? Like, I don't have it down perfectly. I don't have it down to a perfectly balanced game. And
I'm still tweaking it. Yeah. There's a lot to do.
But yeah, I'm certainly like, okay, the game is harder because I've added all these cards. Let me make it so that I can win. Is really what I'm doing, right? Let me make it so I don't just lose. And that's not exactly balanced either. So yeah.
Well, it goes back to my question. How many times should you play this game and win it?
Right. Even though I said 50-50, I'm certainly, with the survivor elimination, making it so that I can win a lot more than that.
And you do 50-50 this time.
Yeah. And I was thinking partway through, I was like, you know what? This would be better if I did the deceased thing, which is like 2 or more survivors die, then you lose, or 3 or more survivors die. Then you
I think
lose.
that's a cool combo.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. If I didn't lose a character, I don't understand how I'd ever lose a game of Zombicide. Like, I just don't see how that would happen unless a mold zone popped up in an objective that I had to take. I just don't understand how I'd ever lose this game. Like, it's just not that hard.
All right. Shall we move on to mission 3?
Mission 3, the secret lab. Mitsuki has bravely led us to the main entrance of the secret laboratory. It's time to blow it all up. According to the maps, this place looks like a maze and has been completely taken over by the infected Xenos. On top of that, we also have the security system to worry about. We don't have much time, but we need to find the central control panel and use our dear bot to infect the system with the reaction virus. Some accesses and elevators have been blocked, though, so we have to find alternatives to get in.
All right. So in this one, I think all of these missions have been super interesting, and I thought the same thing about Black Plague, just mechanics-wise. It's interesting that they went this experimental with it, because I've talked before about how I think the missions in the book can get kind of stale sometimes with a lot of the repeated setups. But in this one, you have 3 levels to move between, and I had no idea they were doing stuff like that this early in Zombicide. You have to find the exit zone again. It's on the ground floor, but you also have to go all the way up to the 2nd floor to find the control room, which is the green objective, and you have to take the bot and use it to inject the virus. That's the goal. There's also a timer. I don't remember how the timer works, but
That means once you set it, you got to get back to the exit.
there's not a timer. Okay.
No, you have a 6-round timer if you leave the bot behind, or a 4-round timer if you want to try to rescue the bot. Which
That's what I did.
I thought there was a
That's
timer. Yeah,
what I
I
did.
rescued him. It's not that hard to run back, especially
I know
if you
what
have the
James
purple
did.
objective. Especially if you have the purple objective or if you have Dr. Falconer, because one of the objectives on the 1st floor, which is the middle one, is there's a sentry gun, and that is hostile. It's like the Iris turret, but it's just whatever sentry gun you until you can control it, and then it stops being hostile towards you. But for at least me and James, that was the beginning when we controlled it. You shuffle in a lot of objectives on the different layers. You shuffle the white one in on the 1st ground floor. That's the exit. You shuffle blue and purple on the 1st floor. And if you have the green security map from last time, you get to flip over the 2 red objectives. What the purple map ends up doing is you also flip over the purple one. You don't set it face down. You set it face up.
Right.
So you know which one is the purple one. Which means you have a pretty solid chance to have everything you need revealed except which one they exit.
That's the whole point, is you're supposed to get all the achievements. Besides the 5 dice to get your power cells and your prototype weapons, you're also marking achievements, which will come into play later.
The campaign notes, and you can mark the achievements. You can write in your kept equipment. It's pretty cool.
If everybody's on the 2nd floor, nothing spawns elsewhere. But it says always draw cards for mold zones.
Yep.
Does that mean spawn points on mold, or like you just do mold spawn?
No,
And you
mold
draw
spawns.
cards.
Yeah.
Mold spawns.
I did that as mold spawns
Okay.
too.
But taking the red objective now also triggers a Xeno spawn, meaning these objectives do 3 things now, the normal things, and also you spawn. It's a lot of rules for this mission.
It is.
It's a hefty one.
Yeah.
But considering how hefty it is, I had no trouble with this. We went in, we did it, we left. Wasn't a big deal. I don't really have a story this time around. No abominations spawned that made a complete mold outbreak happen. Nothing destroyed any objectives. We immediately controlled the sentry gun. It was a very routine mission. It was climactic. It was action-packed. It's just nothing of note. What about you, James? Oh, I did lose my impossible sledges. I believe Commander Morton did keep, and it was a prototype weapon this time. It was the prototype light machine gun, but I think still not an energy cell.
So this one took me 2 times to win. The previous missions took me 3 times to win. So this one felt easy. Honestly, I lost the first time at turn 12 due to Hunter extra activations. And that's because I was at the 3rd level and I thought I'd gotten down far enough away from the spawn point on the 3rd level to not be affected. But Hunters came out and then they extra activated and killed me.
Ugh.
So it happened.
Yeah.
The two abominations I was playing with was the Buddy Bot and the Shadow, along with obviously the normal abomination. The second time I won it, it took me 14 turns, and it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. Like I felt like I knew exactly what I needed to do. I just needed to not pull all hunters again. I felt like I had a good handle on when to activate the sentry gun, when not to, when to get up on the floor so I wasn't getting multiple floors activated. Like I really felt like I was doing the right thing. My characters were developing in a concentric manner. So everyone's going up yellow at the same time, everyone's going orange at the same time, that kind of thing. And when I got back down, I escaped with the robot because I had to do it. If I won in 6 turns, that was not a victory. Sorry, I'd had to play it again. But I escaped with the robot. And overall, I got to say, I found the 3 missions really fun, despite some flaws, right? But every single mission that they put out online has a flaw or two. The only problem I have with this whole thing was I can't roll 5 dice without rolling a 1. Like if I could do that,
running into
I could keep some prototype weapons and I could keep some, energy weapons. Like it'd be really cool, but I just don't roll that way. I found
5 dice, no ones. It's difficult.
yeah, five dice is tough. Play season 3 and see how many crawlers you make. And so, yeah, it's fun. I really enjoyed adding in the extra abominations. I felt like putting in extra abominations per each 3 missions, as opposed to just putting them all into each mission, was the way to find out how they were. Because if you put all your abominations into one deck, you end up just not seeing some of them. And then sometimes you just kill them all so quickly, you don't understand how the rules work. So putting in just a couple for each mission really gets you the idea of how they play, how they're dangerous, what can happen with them. So I would really recommend that as opposed to just throwing everything into a deck. But, your mileage may vary. But overall, I found it really fun. Nate?
I also found this really fun. One note, it is insane that the page showing you how to set up the map has the ground floor on the top and the top floor on the bottom. Like once
I didn't even consider that.
I assumed, I was like, oh, we're going down. No, we're not. We're going up.
We could be going down still. These could be subfloors. There's nothing wrong with that.
Anyways, I rearranged the board on my own table so that ground floor, first floor, second floor, like a sane person would do. I actually kept, I think, 2 prototype weapons and 2 energy cells going into this. Like I rolled crazy
man
good.
over here.
And so Carmen, who has +1 to dice roll ranged, starts the mission with a prototype light machine gun, which means she's throwing 5 dice, hitting 1 damage on 4s. So that significantly impacted the difficulty in a way that I almost think wasn't fun. The analogy that popped in my head is like Zombicide missions feel like jumping out of an airplane and trying to sew a parachute on your way down, right? But when you start the game with like a big prototype gun that can just kill everything, it almost feels like you're starting the game with a parachute and all you need to do is open it. So that having been said, I still had a good time. We got logged up on the 2nd floor and we had to do some smart stuff. We had to really prep for the 3rd floor. Then I cheated in the sense that I did not realize that the zombies could use the elevators. So as they were mold spawning, I was just like, okay, they don't have a clear path, so they'll just stand there until something actually comes on their level. Yeah. And then halfway through the game, I realized, oh no, they're all queuing up to use the elevator. And they're going up and down.
That first issue you mentioned with the keeping stuff, I had kind of a similar experience with the 2nd edition campaign. Because one of our guys that was going through was Batman, and he just kept keeping a minigun. He had this minigun for like half of the campaign. And Batman with a minigun does not make things hard.
Yep. I'm very curious for Eternal Empire when it comes out for White Death, because that's my first full campaign box. And I'm realizing I don't think I want that kind of continuity in my campaign. So like, cool, start with really good gear in the mission. I'm like, no, the whole point of Zombicide is to go from 0 to survival. We'll see how it goes. I'm getting off track.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a complete tangent.
But yeah, it was a fun mission. The bot showed up. The bot killed a lot more Xenos than it did any harm to us. I opted to try to save the robot, and it was a close thing, but we got out. So this is a fun mission.
Yeah, so for me, for this mission, this mission was definitely easier than the other two. And, sadly, I got to take no energy cells or prototype weapons because all the survivors that had those were eliminated in the previous game, which presented its own kind of different challenge and flavor. And with the 6 repair points, I could barely just bring up, with 4 survivors having gone down the last mission, 6 repair points, I can only restore 1 soldier, Massimo, to 3 armor, and then the other 3 survivors got 1 each. And, in playing survivor elimination, I'm like, okay, if they all die, then I really lose, right? And, another reason why I do this is because I'm rushed, and this is the only chance I'll have to actually experience this. If I'm playing the same mission over and over again, I won't be able to. It's kind of like putting a video game on story mode difficulty where you just want to experience the story. So yeah, after about 2.5 hours, I was able to win. I got all 6 survivors survived. They got out barely on the 6th and final round after leaving the bot in the rooms. Just to explain how that works, you find the right objectives to be able to climb the building. Ultimately, it's kind of like that one time in Star Wars in Rogue One, when K2SO's on the controllers, sorry, spoilers. When he's K2SO, the bot, the droid, he's on the controllers while the humans are trying to get out. It kind of felt like that to me. It was fun. Yeah, I got him there. Mitsuki then just took off and with their +1 move was able to get there. And yeah, my people were a bit slower, so I'm really glad I took the option to take the 6 rounds to get out before the self-destruct occurred and the building got blown, because I barely got them out to the exit. And I lucked out too because
Did we all save the bot then?
No, I didn't save the bot.
You say?
No. I left the bot.
Heartless.
Yeah, I know. And then I also lucked out because the objective closest to the elevator was the white objective being exit. So
Nice.
Yeah. So I lucked out there and I was still slow and I could barely get to, like, how nominally, like, let me just count this real quick. Like from the bot spot, 1, 2, 3, it depends on where the blue one was. For me, the blue objective from the tunnel was here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
It was the
9,
close
10,
one for me,
11,
I think. I remember that.
12, 13. So 13 zones over 6 rounds. Yeah, that sounds really slow, doesn't it? I just had a lot of different kinds of crazy Xenos coming at me. Flingers were actually really messing up my plans too. They were really slowing me down to get through all this stuff.
And I think the timer starts on the round after you take the objective. So if you set yourself up, you go objective, run, then you're going to have 6 full turns after that.
I think I started at that round. Yeah.
Okay.
I started third. It might be a little ambiguous. I think that might just kind of be the cost of having the very experimental kind of first draft style of mission.
I think what made this mission kind of easier just in the design of it is that it's so easy to just park here for a good long while until you have all the right weapons in the beginning area. While the threats are building and coming down here. Yeah, like there isn't much danger or push for urgency there. Except for me, I got a spoiler abomination. They'd love to show up early. The spoiler abominations.
But yeah, spoiler abomination in the far one.
Yeah, spoiler abomination in the far one.
Oh yeah, he'll connect him real quick.
Yeah, because I was rushing, I almost missed it. Like he was right here. He was diagonally from the other one. Oh, you know what's funny? I was like, Nate's gonna hate this. Nate's gonna hate this so much. It's really funny how my spoiler abomination. It's really strange how he zigzagged around these objective tokens. To get towards me. It's kind of funny how that worked out. Just
is it?
He technically was taking the shortest path to his target, so you were playing by the rules.
I think it makes more sense for stuff to follow hallways if they're there.
There you go.
Seems weird to go into an office just to exit through the other door when there's an equally efficient hallway.
Yeah. But it was satisfying lighting up like that last
What are you
threatening.
talking about? It's 4 to get to the airlock versus 5 to get to the airlock. It's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And any path to get to the airlock is
they're all 5.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's many different 5 5-zone paths to get to the airlock.
I didn't even think
Yeah,
about having to go up, or if he could destroy 2 objectives on his way. If he really
Yeah,
wanted.
so then you lose the game. Like, why would you do that?
Oh, I mean, you wouldn't. Brian did the right thing. That was just one of my gripes with the game is like,
Yeah, he mentioned it
I
last
don't
time.
like manipulating the Xenos to make the game easier for me. I wish it was deterministic, but and that
Could have rolled. Yeah, Ryan mentioned he liked to roll dice for that. In this situation, I think I wouldn't even think to have him maybe go in there just because I feel like just logically this hallway is equally efficient. Might as well do that.
Brian did the right thing.
Not even thinking about objectives.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I was just saying Nate would hate this because it's not deterministic.
2, 4, 5. Yeah. I mean, one way or the other, though. Okay, so there's one way you're destroying an objective, and there's one you're not. So you're just magically going around those.
Yeah.
I don't think it's magically he's deciding to follow the hallway.
That's the rules
Okay.
it's written. You know, you could decide
The rules
where,
is written is
which way he goes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
path is tides.
It's
Players
not just
prefer.
for Abominations. It's for any split group where when you can't have them go equally.
Mhm.
But the Abomination is a group of 1, so he can't go equally in both directions.
I'm trying to figure out how.
How are you guys so bad at this?
No, that's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I'm just like, how can you? My problem with this game is they changed how the extra activations work when you run out of miniatures to Abomination.
They did
Because
go
you
a
can
little.
survive it. I think.
So
I
it
think also if they altered the concentrated fire, like if they altered the wound level of the different Abominations, like they did with Marvel and like they did with Army of the Dead, I think that would make concentrated fire a lot more interesting. Because concentrated fire in this version is just too easy. It's just too simplistic. I think it's a great step. It's a great idea. They just didn't quite get there with it.
Think maybe one simple thing they could have done. They should have announced. They should have had in the rules. Play with these cards. Shuffle these ones in also if you want it to be easier, instead of having just kind of a small paragraph at the end that's like if you want it to be harder. Because I think like that's part of it. And really, I also think a lot of people, and this isn't their fault because this is kind of what every other Zombicide is like. Get Dark Side, shuffle that into. And I talked a lot about how that completely ruins both decks of the spawn cards at least.
Oh, I don't think you should mix Darkseid with
No,
Invader
yeah, absolutely not.
at all. No, I think Green Horde and Black Plague don't mix. Like, I really don't. People want to say that they're compatible, and they are, but they're not. I mean, not if you want to have fun. Just my opinion.
So overall, I thought this campaign was a lot of fun. I think it's totally worth it. You know, if anybody's out wants to give it a try, I think you should. It's a good time, and you can obviously play it all kinds of different ways, as some of us have. And the only thing I wish that they would do in any missions, but especially campaigns, is have a nice little epilogue written in there. Like, why don't they do that? Like, why does CMON not do that with any of these Zombicide games? I'm just used to that sort of thing from like other dungeon crawl games, from other Descent and Star Wars Imperial Assault and all those kind of things.
I like this campaign a lot more than the last couple of campaigns we played. I thought these 3 missions, they had some flaws, but I really thought that they had some, interesting mechanics to them. I really did. I thought that they added some different rules and some different reasons.
A lot of this stuff kind of came back later on. We talked about elevators and the all out, because the one right after this is 2nd edition, right? And that's when that stuff kind of started to become a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see
it's
that
cool to see them.
this influenced 2nd edition for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, it basically
because
is the whole
this is like
campaign
right
system.
before. Yeah, this is right before retail campaigns were a thing.
Yeah, this absolutely. I mean, there was elevators before in previous classic Zombicide Modern, but
I never played it.
yeah, but I mean, as far as like rolling 5 dice and don't roll a 1, that clearly influenced the campaign system.
That's like the keep roll or whatever.
Exactly, and the whole idea of trying to keep guns or equipment from one to the next, and campaign achievement.
The campaign achievements and the ability to start with an ability at blue that isn't on your card, It's only kind of touched on in this with camouflage, but that is something that's one of the cornerstones of the campaign system.
Yeah, this is basically second edition campaign system right here in a nutshell. I mean, obviously it expands on it, but this is it right here in a nutshell. It's invented right here.
All right. I think we pretty much just talked about favorite ways to play.
Well, I mean, yeah. So like after we've all, experimented with a lot of different components and everything, like, what's your favorite way to play, Schmedley?
So moving forward, I think I'm going to keep extra activations on miniature runout. I think I'm going to keep Abominations dropping mold. At least in this one, I'll have to figure out what to do in Darkside. Dropping mold on death. And I'm probably going to try adding Nate's Abomination deck to it, which I know that's pretty far removed already, but I'm going to see how all three of those together go.
Nice.
If you just want to change one thing, I'd say probably the extra activations on running out of miniatures is like the simplest thing you can do to up the difficulty. Simple enough that you did it by accident. James?
Yeah, I'm going to have to completely make a new equipment deck and Zombicide deck that's all Xeno-based for aliens to get anybody to play with me, because the people I like to play with like aliens, and so that's how I'll get them in. Maybe Star Wars. I've come up with some Star Wars characters. Maybe I can come up with some Zombicide versions of those to get them to play, but otherwise that's the only way I'll be playing this game again. Until Darkside podcast, sure. Yeah.
All right.
Nate?
I think I'm going to stick with the deck rules I use with the Abomination deck. I really like not knowing what's going to come out from there. I have been using the extra Xeno minis from the promo Xenos pack, and I'm not going to do that unless I'm including double the amount of spawn cards, because having the buffer of extra miniatures just made the game a little more deterministic in terms of like, oh, I don't need to worry about those flingers because I know they won't activate again, and I know it won't cause any uncertainty. So probably just limiting my supply of Xenos, but otherwise just doing what I've been doing. And I think I might play around with, instead of adding like all the different Xeno types to the deck, maybe I'm going to add double Seekers this time. I'm going to put 18 Seeker cards in this deck. And I'm going to use all my 16 Seekers, but we'll see how that goes. I'm playing around with sort of a more focused deck like that. Boy, the reaction on your face, I said 18 Seeker cards, was extreme.
The Seekers freak me out, man.
I never use extra. I have extra minis for some of the things, but I almost never even bring out the boxes with those in them, because I think horde management is such an important part of the game of all settings.
Yep.
Yeah, the Seekers freak me out. Like how random, how random they are. They can be, if they all come in a row, is absolutely terrifying. So that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, for me, definitely going to keep using Nate's rebalanced deck. I love that, with the Abomination deck on the side and all these Abomination rules to make sure you get your spoilers out first and then your other Abominations out after that. I just love the variety. I want to play with all of my toys. I don't think I'll keep doing Survivor Elimination. I really just kind of did that so I could play through all of this in time to be able to talk about it here.
The more I think about that, the more it might make it too easy.
Yeah, I totally agree. James, you've convinced me, like, that's just making it too easy. Let's just make it so my win rate is 100%. 99%. And that's too much. That is too much. I agree. I still want to maybe play around with the, like you're doing, Schmedley, too, of my accidental nightmare mode of doing that.
Yeah.
Whether or not. Right. Yeah.
And really, nobody wants to pick up my mold on death. I thought it was a cool rule.
I think it's a super cool rule. That and the extra, just doing the nightmare mode, are two things I'll definitely consider. I just haven't tried them yet, so I can't say they're for sure they're my favorites.
Adding in, like, having all of the Darkside and Black Ops gear, some of that gear is just completely overpowered. I think it makes it way too easy. It is very cool, but all right.
Any custom stuff to talk about?
Custom stuff. James has got some cool custom stuff to share. Where's that thing? Here we go.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so the only thing I've managed to do custom before my friends bailed on me was try to make some characters that they would want to play. So I'd painted all the characters from the Gale Force 9 game, Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Court. And I thought, well, if they played with these characters, they would have a good time. Right. So I made character cards for all these guys. I haven't had a chance yet to make Xeno cards for the Xenos and the Queen as an Abomination. I'd kind of given up on that because they had given up on the game. Same thing with equipment cards. Like I got plans to do equipment cards for that to make it, an Aliens game. But again, I just don't know why I'd put my time into this when I don't got anybody to play with for it. So this is as far as I've got. The other two character cards that I've got is for Necromunda. So I got friends that love to play Necromunda, so I made character cards for their Necromunda characters, try to get them to play. Same thing with Mandalorian. There's a great guy that does 3D STLs from Skullforge. He does all the Star Wars stuff for Mandalorian and all the other TV shows. So I've made character cards for those and, printing off, trying to get them to play. But, it's hard to bring a horse to water or whatever it is. And so that's as far as I've gotten.
These are so cool.
Yeah.
Are these
They're
these
very cool.
Yeah, I'm loving these miniatures. Are
And
these
especially have Burke in his little like orange vest, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So these are not my paint jobs. These are Gale Force official paint jobs. I've painted all these miniatures. I've got them all, but those are not my paint jobs. Those are miniatures that are actually officially, produced by Gale Force 9 for the game Another Glorious Day in the Core. And they're really great miniatures. Like, I love the bases. The bases fit inside the rings. So if you like to use the color rings, they fit in there perfect. They're also texture bases, and they have the names of the characters on the bases, 3D printed, embossed or whatever you would say on the bases. So they're really cool miniatures. I highly recommend it. They got all your favorite, people. They're fun to play with. Again, use them as you like. The civilians seem obvious to me. Soldiers seem obvious to me. So,
yeah.
I just picked some skills that I thought made sense.
Yeah, I like those skills. It's awesome. Yeah, I really hope that you can tailor the Zombicide Invader experience in some way so you can get your buddies back to the table to play it. But hey, in any event,
someday I'll work on it.
Yeah, and hey, in any event, like you're getting it to the table at least solo or what have you for the podcast. So that hopefully that helps. Okay, I have one custom thing to share, and then we can wrap this up. All right, so real quick, as promised, I am adding more all the time to the Zombicide's mission templates and map editor. It's a mouthful. So I've got, so now it's the fourth one. So we got Marvel Zombies, nice. Zombicide Fantasy, Zombicide Classic, and now Zombicide Sci-Fi. So you can make your Zombicide Sci-Fi missions right here. And I have the display fonts, the Zecton fonts that you could download for free here. And I just recreated a mission and threw it together. And yeah, so you got all the pieces here to make missions for Invader, Darkside, Black Ops, and Operation Persephone. The only difference with all of these, as far as the templates, how I have them laid out, is the colored bar on the side. Operation Persephone had a blue one, so I was like, okay, let's throw it in here too. And all the components and all the bits are here, the things, all the tiles. It's good times. And you can make your missions, you can put the templates, you can print them out, you can put them together as PDFs. And of course, with all the different settings in here, you can just mix and match. If you want to smash together some fantasy tiles with some modern tiles with some sci-fi tiles, go for it. All right, we hope you enjoyed our review and discussion of the Zombicide Invader Kickstarter and expansions. Next episode, we'll be reviewing Army of the Dead, a Zombicide game. And our book club mission will be Mission to Jackpot. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you guys there. You can play along. And that places a closed door again on this episode. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Good night, everybody.
Stay nice out there.
Happy gaming.
Watch out for mold.
Thanks again for listening to the Zombicide Fans podcast. Zombicide Fans is an unofficial podcast and is not affiliated with or endorsed by CMON or Guillotine Games. Thank you from your hosts, Ryan Messick, Schmedley Mayers, and James Fisher, and thanks to our special guest, Nate Parks, plus our sponsor, BoardGameGoodies.shop, where listeners can save 10% with coupon code PODCAST. You can check out the show on all major podcast listening platforms and on YouTube. You can reach us at zombicidefans@gmail.com. The podcast is hosted at zombicidefans.com. Join our communities at the Zombicide Discord and the All Zombicide Games Facebook group. All links will be in the show notes. Until next time, survive.